Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Thursday edition of the Rodcast, which means we got lots of football to discuss. Actual football. The Giants and the Cowboys in action tonight. We'll continue breaking down that matchup. We'll also get more into the Texas-Mississippi State matchup coming up this weekend. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain and talk about the Longhorns' upcoming opponents. We'll also get into some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets. You got another big college football game, actually the biggest college football game so far this season. Two top five teams, Georgia and Bama, facing off. We'll start to preview that a little bit coming up later on in the show. We got lots of other football-related items to get to. We'll update you on the Matthew Sluka story. There's now differing sides, if you will. There were varying opinions and different stories and headlines based on the latest update on Matthew Sluka for UNLV's side and from his side, his representation. So we'll talk about that. Also, we'll get into all your usual favorites on the show. We got Who Said That. We got What the Facts, What the Stats. We also got Off the Record. We got the topic for the big fat poll of the day. And we also have all of your usual favorites, Rod's Rant as well. So let's get right to it. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm interested to see a sporting event today. It's a daytime game, so I get to watch it till the end. So it's not a 9 o'clock game. But today is the final game played at the Oakland Coliseum. The Rangers and the A's are playing today at like 2:30, I think. Okay. And it's the final home game of the Oakland Coliseum. And I already saw that there was reports yesterday. So then they were showing after the game that people were lined up and they were like giving him dirt from the field to give him like a memento. But like but just like a guy with like a show was just like kind of giving up. Just something you'd be like, oh, I have dirt from the Oakland Coliseum before when they still played there. So just a little something that's free basically that everybody could get.
All right, I feel that. Gotta get something better than dirt, but I feel that.
No, I get, but I'm just saying as a free memento of the Oakland A's. But then there was also a report of 6 police officers chasing a guy who stole a seat from the Coliseum.
See, that actually makes more sense, but you can't steal the seat.
You can't steal the seat.
I'm sure there's an auction or something you can get it. Yeah,
well, I don't even know if they're tearing down the Coliseum. I just know the A's are moving. So the Coliseum may still be there for other events, or I don't know what else they're going to put in there because
I was going to say, yeah,
because the Chargers and the A's have moved, so I don't know what they'll put in there. But
exactly.
But I don't think they're tearing it down right now. So it's not like you can ransack it or whatever. And so the dirt was an easier one to take because you're like, well, we're going to get rid of the field, like the baseball field will go away.
Yeah, but no, I like the chair thing though. That's pretty cool. I know some people they got them via auctions because they auction off like items from old stadiums and stuff, old venues.
Yeah,
and I've seen people that got them like that, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, but go steal one.
But this is what's interesting.
It's gonna be hard to get away. How you gonna get away?
The last game of the year is today, and it's Oakland, and these A's fans don't give a damn about that ownership group.
Oh no.
I have no idea what's going to happen at the end of this game, but I'm somewhat interested to see what happens because there's going to be at least enough craziness that happens during it.
It always is
because it's Oakland, and like it's such a weird franchise that's
very strange.
Yeah. I'm a little interested to see what happens today after the A's say their final farewell. And they're playing the Rangers, so it'll be on TV for most people to be able to see.
Cops out there. They better have some cops. They better have a strong police presence.
I guarantee you, the Oakland ownership is going to have a
strong police presence.
Yeah. That's just,
like you don't want some of your stuff stolen because I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like you have to have the team shop where they're like, well, I'm sure people are going to want like the A stuff before we close down for good, but also people are going to want it for free. So
damn right, especially considering how cheap you've been over the years. Oh man, yeah, they're gonna want that for free.
Yeah, so it'll be an interesting game today to see. So if you're not doing anything, it'll probably be over around 4 or 5. You say
So
that.
you're trying to get you want to catch the tail end of it. That's
I think you want to see what the end of it is.
They'll start looting like the 7th inning stretch. People start pulling out screwdrivers.
There will be at least a few crazy people in the crowd. That's almost guaranteed.
You think people will try to start streaking like a couple of the streakers?
I can imagine streakers. I can imagine too multiple announcements through where it's not like, what a great time we had at the ballpark, but like, please don't ruin this. Please don't make. I can't wait to see it. It seems like it's going to be a fun thing to see during the day. It's a 2:30 game. Like, if it was a night game.
Now you got me interested. Now I might set my alarm. Like, let me see if I can catch the tail end of the team. Something crazy. It'll come across my timeline. I'm sure. If something wild is happening.
Exactly.
I'm sure it'll come across my timeline. So
yeah. No, my timeline was the one where I saw that that someone was being chased with the seats. So.
With a seat. That's what I'm saying. That was the getaway plan. It was like, nah, I'm just gonna be able to get away with this. It's like you didn't have that getaway car to have a truck ready. You could throw it in the truck and then try to get away.
I think they probably were just like, nobody cares, and then they realized people do care, and so then when you
figured out that's what I'm saying. That should have been the moment you're like, you know what? I didn't know y'all would care that much. Here, you can have it, or boom, I'll just take the loss.
We just drop it and run. No. He may have dropped.
Yes, I'm saying take the L, and yes, that's a better choice too. Whatever you want to do, but at that point, the worst choice would be to take the actual chair with you while you are trying to run away, because you're not gonna get away. You know what I mean?
No, and you can't even like post it online because then you're posting a crime online. Yeah.
It's like, well, I say they probably wanted it for a sentimental reason, like you said. They probably wanted to put it in their basement, in their man cave or whatever. But yeah, trying to run away with a chair you stole from a stadium is probably it's not going to work out.
No, I'm not opposed to the A's fans getting something back from a franchise that has really been awful to them.
They should do that for the cheap, because they're not going to put anything. Nothing's going in there. It's going to end up being an old relic, and then it's going to end up tearing.
It's going to be like the Astrodome.
Yes, and the only reason they can't tear down the Astrodome is because of what it's a historical site now. Monument. Yeah, basically, yeah. So they can't tear it down, and right now it's just an eyesore and it smells and everything else. That's what it's going to end up being. They probably should end up just tearing it down. There's no team coming back there.
Yeah.
There's nobody coming back to Oakland.
But I'm curious. I don't know who owns the Oakland. I don't know if it'll be reverted back to the city or. But if it's the ownership group, then you're like, well, I don't want to give you more money for you screwing us over and leaving, and then be like, hey, do you want a piece of your memory? Give us more money. So I don't know. I don't know. I think, so I'm just putting that out there for anybody. If you want something to watch before Thursday Night Football and all the games kick off tonight or whatever's kicking off tonight, then you can tune into tune into that. The end of that game, they're playing the Rangers. You see Kumar Rocker too, as well, for the Rangers, young pitcher that they just called up at the end of the season. He'll be pitching. And
that's the last game of the season for them, right?
Home game. Last home game. There's still a series happening this weekend, but this will be the last home game for the A's, and then they go on the road for the last 3 games. Okay. And the Rangers are still on the road for the last 3 games, so it'll be. But that's the reason, is this will be the last game in the Oakland Coliseum, and that is a city and a franchise and a team that it feels like something could go wrong today. Just feels like it's.
All right. Well, I hope it's fun-loving.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah. Hope it don't get too crazy. Let
me tell you, who's always fun-loving. My co-host, he's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod Father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Appreciate the intro as always. Also, we'll get into, like I said, the topic for the Big Fat Poll today coming up. We'll continue to preview Texas, Mississippi State, and we'll talk about the biggest college football game so far this season, which will be Georgia, Bama coming up this weekend. Huge one. There's a possibility the winner of that game leapfrogs Texas for that number 1 spot, and Texas drops to number 2 just because of the magnitude of the game, depending on how everything goes. So we'll get into that a little bit coming up later on in the show. And of course, we're talking a lot about the Cowboys and the Giants tonight. I've done some more research about this matchup. I still think that the Cowboys are going to win, but if it goes wrong, I wouldn't be surprised, just because it's there are some variables that I think for the Cowboys, if they, and their rush defense obviously is, their run game and their rush defense are probably at the top of that list, that if they don't show some incremental improvement from last week to this week, then this thing could get way more interesting than it needs to be. So we'll go over that. We'll talk about that. We'll start off getting into the Giants Cowboys matchup tonight. But before we do, let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and those Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost the Mariners 8-1 yesterday in a game where Houston rested many of its players. Alex Bregman received a standing ovation from the Minute Maid crowd while being pulled in the fourth inning in what could be his final game as an Astro at home, as he is a free agent following the season. The Astros now get the day off before facing the Guardians this weekend. The Rangers beat the A's 5-1 to even their series last night. Adolis Garcia and Wyatt Langford hit 2 homers to expand the lead, while Cody Bradford needed 90 pitches to get through 3 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run with 4 strikeouts. Kumar Rocker gets to start for the Rangers today in what will be the final home game for the A's in Oakland. In the NFL, the Cowboys face the Giants on Thursday Night Football, hoping to turn around their luck after the last 2 weeks. The Cowboys have won 6 straight against the Giants in 13 of the last 14, and Dak Prescott has won his last 12 starts against New York. And in college football, Texas released their first injury availability report listing. Quinn Ewers and DeAndre Moore is questionable, along with Jelani McDonald and Trey Wisner. Running back depth will once again be tested, with Velton Gardner listed as out and Colin Page listed as doubtful to go along with Wisner's listing. Derek Williams is also listed as doubtful for Saturday, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick. We appreciate the Horn headlines as always. Yeah, let's before we dive into some Cowboys Giants, let's talk about the availability report that came out yesterday for the SEC. I don't know what happened with the running back position this past week, but to have 3, well, we already knew about CJ Baxter and Christian Clark. They were already, of course, out for the season. But then adding what happened with Velton Gardner, I'm not sure. And I don't know what happened with Colin Page and then Trey Wisner. They have 3 other running backs. Trey Wisner, of course, he was out for the last game too. But now Colin Page added to that list. Maybe that's something that happened at the end of the game where he did get a lot of touches. I'm not sure. And the Velton Gardner thing. I mean, I don't know when that happened. So I'm not sure if that happened in practice or if that happened, the last time that we saw Velton Gardner, which was a couple of games ago.
Yeah, it would make sense that's why he didn't play in the last game.
Yeah, so man, talk about it's because we just got the SEC play, and the running back position is a mash unit basically right now. And let's not forget, Jarrett Gibson was nicked up in the last game.
Not forget, James Blue just came back from injury. Jarrett Gibson, and they're the 2 not on the report. But those are your only 2 technically healthy backs. And I know there's another.
Ryan Niblett now plays a huge role. Ryan Niblett's a full-time running back now.
And then you have another walk-on freshman running back that actually got some carries in the UL Monroe game. Well, which I guess
I don't know your name, young man, but we need you.
So, I know because he played. I remember he came in and you were like, what? Wow, we're going deep down that depth.
No, that's great. Point. They need to, because Colin Page, I'm like, what was he? Did he get a baseball injury? Was he celebrating or something and got injured? I don't know what happened there. And he's doubtful. Doubtful usually means you're not gonna play. But that's there's still you still could be you still be upgraded your status wise. But
your other
doubtful usually means you're not gonna.
Reed Watkins is the other name. Reed Watkins had 4 carries for 15 yards against ULM.
Watkins, yes. Okay.
So that was another name that I wasn't expecting to see on the box score. But
it's unbelievable. This year, it seems like that's the crazy thing about it. I said this earlier in the season. And I said it when the CJ Baxter injury happened, and that was like early in training camp. And I said, man, you got to lean on the pass because running back was a position where you guys are going to get injured. Hell, I was talking about last season. I didn't know it was going to be this bad this season, but I was just talking about Jonathan Brooks going down last season. Keelan Robinson ended up getting hurt at one point last season. CJ Baxter got hurt last season. I was like, running backs just get hurt. They take a lot of punishment. They get hit a lot. They get hit by big dudes a lot. Wide receivers don't get hurt as much because they get hit by dudes my size. All right, so Robbie ain't gonna hurt you. But when you're getting hit by 300-pound dudes and you're getting, when you're getting rolled, your ankle's getting rolled over by 300-pound linemen every now and then, it adds up. The accumulation of the total of the different touches that you get as a running back. I always said that's a lot. That's why they try to you try to shoulder that burden and you try to share that burden with another running back or at least a committee of running backs. And both for Texas, it's to just get into SEC play and to be this injury riddled at the running back position. I will admit that's kind of a problem. Now, like I said, maybe this is part of the reason that Jaden Blue got 25 rushes and 7 targets versus ULM. I still don't know if you can risk that usually with considering with the state of the running back position. I think you really have to, as a coach, you got to be really cautious with the way you're using your backs now. It's unfortunate, but I do think that's something that has to play a role in the way you call the game.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm sure I'm guessing someone will ask this today. I wouldn't be surprised if Juan Davis gets some reps in that backfield now. A little bit more.
Darian Gillette. Remember Darian Gillette?
I'm just saying,
some
reps. They like Juan Davis a lot, but with the emergence of Gunnar Helm being the guy at tight end, it's kind of cut down on the reps we thought Juan Davis is going to have at tight end. And
no, Juan Davis is getting a lot of reps at tight. He's the second tight end.
He's the second tight end, but I could see
he plays a lot, and he's going to be a fullback if he is. And they haven't really used the Wildcat at all. And remember, thought that he was going to be the Wildcat guy. So I don't think he's going to be like just a running back. That's not really his frame either. He's not really got the frame for that. If they use him, it'll be an H-back, fullback role, or they'll break out the Wildcat rhythm. I think a guy like probably Darian Gillette, Ryan Niblett, number one, he's going to be the guy they move over there full time. And then maybe a Darian Gillette who they used a little bit in the spring, and they talked about also splitting time there early in training camp when they had some injuries at the running back position. So I think that's where they'll likely go. But like I said, I do think it has to play a role in how you manage and call the game. And that's why I thought you'd be a pass first team. I said it, I've been saying it all season long. You're a pass first team. The football gods are telling you this with the amount of injuries you have at the running back position and how deep you're at wide receiver. And as Patrick mentioned, how deep you are now at tight end, because they like Juan Davis. They don't like Amari Niblack as much because he's not as well rounded. You got to have, I think you got to have some competent capability as a blocker, and I'm not sure he's a plus blocker. I think he may be a liability as a blocker. Juan Davis is not a liability as a blocker at all, run game or pass game. And Gunnar Helm's your most well-rounded tight end. So those guys play. And maybe this is also why they're playing, a lot more, 12 personnel to give a boost to the running game a little bit. And you're not going to see the 2-back sets at all. I mean, you shouldn't, by the way. You haven't seen them much at all this season because of the injuries. And I think with these types of mounting injuries at that running back position, you can't afford to have 2 running backs on the field at the same time. So your pony package is a non-factor. And it should be, by the way. I'm the biggest advocate for the pony package, but you can't afford to have 2 running backs on the field at the same time. You just don't have enough of them. You don't have enough bodies. So thank goodness for Ryan Niblett. Otherwise, you'd only have 2 running backs, and both of them have also been injured this year. Think about that. So every running back has been injured already, except for Ryan Niblett, I guess.
And we haven't played a conference game.
You haven't played a conference in the most physical conference in the country.
Wow, they're just gonna be. I mean, you're talking about a walk-on getting us on this report. You had a late transfer and a walk-on that are both on this report.
You brought in the guy because you needed depth at running back, and then as soon as you brought him in, he got an injury too. It's just, sometimes you just get really bad luck at a certain position. In Texas, actually, they've had 2 safeties are on here too, Jelani McDonald and Derek Williams. Derek Williams is one of your guys in kind of your starting rotation of safeties. And Jelani McDonald is one of your backups, and they've been cross-training him at nickel and at safety. You haven't even really missed those guys as much because you have so much versatility in the back end and so much depth that you could absorb those types of losses for a couple of weeks or a few weeks. They haven't really been missed because Makuba is playing really well and he's versatile. Jade Barron, they can move around. They talked about working. This is why they talked about working Jade Barron as their 3rd or 4th safety, which he can do. And they have a lot. Michael Tavis playing at a really high level as well. They do. It seems like they just have versatility and depth in the back end, so you don't miss. And Jalen Gilbo's playing well. You just don't miss those guys as much. But I mean, Derek Williams has been out for couple of weeks.
And
I mean, feels to me missed some time too.
And you're somewhat lucky that you haven't really played a downfield passing attack yet either.
You have not.
So your safeties haven't had to be overly tested of, making sure you don't give up gigantic plays and really game-changing plays. You haven't had that test, but they've done extremely well in the situations they've been in. You just haven't played that electric off, but I don't know if you're going to in the regular season.
Not right now. There's no offense that looks like that. I mean, Arkansas has a dynamic quarterback, a dual threat quarterback, but they're not necessarily a prolific, efficient offense. Oklahoma, we know they're going through an offensive identity crisis right now.
Yeah,
they
unless you get
quarterbacks.
Unless you get a new quarterback that is better at throwing it downfield, or unless Georgia decides to try and test Texas in that secondary with Carson Beck, and they try
don't
and
really
go
have the weapons on the outside. Georgia doesn't this year. It doesn't seem like it.
Anyway. But that's what I'm saying. It's like unless something gets pulled out that we haven't seen yet, which is very possible, and you could always go against one of these quarterbacks as the backup. We see it with Arch Manning. That Quinn Ewers is not going to chunk it downfield, and then Arch Manning comes in and everything's downfield. So
Mississippi State don't have a backup in there, so it could happen. It could. No, I'm with you. I don't see it. I don't want to sound cocky and arrogant, but there is no prolific passing offense like Tennessee or Ole Miss. Even what Bama presents with Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe. There's nothing like that on the roster. Even Carson Beck, who's a high-level quarterback, that's not Georgia's offense right now. It is not a explosive offense at all. So I'm with you. Texas won't be tested till their defense arguably won't be tested fully until the SEC title game and the college football playoff, which is scary, a little scary. Yeah. But I think that's why your defense will be probably considered elite all season long, because it'll be able to have those types of metrics and statistical, accolades and achievements. You'll stay in the top 10, the top 5 in all the major statistical categories. And I think people will be able to call you elite even after the Georgia game. I don't think the Georgia game is going to be, from the Georgia perspective, they don't want it to be that high scoring. If it becomes a shootout, Texas is all about that because Texas can score.
Yeah.
I don't know if Georgia's built like that this year.
No, I mean the only thing you'll see, because they did pretty well against Clemson, but it wasn't even mainly explosive plays. But you will see this weekend against Alabama, if they're able to open something up, and maybe they've held some stuff back before conference play, and now going against Alabama, they'll pull it out in a big game. But if we don't see it this week, I don't think we'll see it in 3 weeks.
This is why it's an important game, Longhorn fans to pay attention to, because this is the Georgia. This Georgia is who you'll see.
Yes.
All right. The Georgia that played Kentucky. That's it. Every team has off games and they get distracted. I'm not sure what happened in that game. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but this Georgia team will be focused. For Kirby Smart, he knows how to coach in big games, 4 big games. Get his guys ready to go. Top 5 matchup versus Bama. They'll be tested because Kalen DeBoer is also a hell of a coach.
Yeah, and when
he's out-coached Sark twice, so he's a hell of a coach. Trust me, that ain't easy to do.
And when you talk about weapons, they do have some weapons on the outside and some guys that can really burn and run a wide receiver. That kid, 17 years old. I think his name is Williams. 17 years old. Should be a senior in high school, and he's scoring touchdowns for him right now. Crazy.
Maybe the most important player on that Bama offense actually right now, other than Jalen Milroe, of course. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It's I think for Texas, I always said the passing game is going to be their strength, their identity. It'll open up the running game. The running game will complement the passing game this year. But man, I think the injuries is something that you got to consider when you're calling the game and when you're managing the game at the running back position now. And I wonder, if Arch is going to start, we still don't know that right now. I keep going back and forth on Arch and Quinn, and we'll get into that. We go behind the burn orange curtain, but just if Arch starts, then you have to, Sarkis seems like he's balancing the offense more. He even said that when Quinn's out there, he's more comfortable throwing on early downs with basically extended handoffs, a extension of the running game, the screen game, the quick game, the RPO game. He's more comfortable with that stuff on early downs, even straight drop back, because he's a third-year starting quarterback in the system. But with Arch, you go look at the early game, early down pass rates. and you're pretty close. You're about 53%, between 53 and 55% early game, early down pass rate. So he wants the offense balanced with a young quarterback at the helm. That the only thing that it disrupts, that method and that plan of action is the injuries to running back. Because you'd love to keep it balanced and like, oh yeah, especially against Mississippi State, we'll get into it. They are really bad rush defense, and you love to just balance the offense with a freshman quarterback, and you don't put too much on his plate, and you stay ahead of the chains, you stay on schedule or ahead of schedule. But when you don't necessarily have the depth to run it that many times in the game, then you want to depend on the early game, sort of the early down pass rate to increase a little bit so that you can, get your quarterback in a rhythm, and you can have, basically have some of the burden taken off of your running game if you don't have the injuries. And I don't know how if you're a coach, if you're Sark right now, I don't know how you balance that because of your running back situation. That's going to be a challenge for him, a conundrum.
Yeah.
What do you do? I don't know. Like, I really don't. I would say just screen game. He talked about his screen game. He wanted to utilize it more, and I think they had 4 screens in the last game. But Arch doesn't throw the screens really well.
Yeah,
right.
I guarantee he's working on it in practice this week.
Yeah, but that's not like it's gonna come. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like right now, that's not a strength to his game, and that's people think it's easy. That's really tough because you don't necessarily know what position you're gonna be throwing the screen from every time. That could be a defensive lineman on you. It could be your running back could be in a different spot than he is in practice every time. You may have to throw it off platform in a weird way, and you're trying to throw it where they can catch it and get it on the move.
Yeah.
And so it's not just to get it to him. You want to get it to him in a certain spot and get the ball placement's really important in screens. And so to feather those throws it's tough sometimes for a young quarterback. I was talking to Coach Bob Shipley about it. So I think that's why, and that's another thing Sark said. So I thought, call a lot of screens when he doesn't throw screens well. I mean, that's not smart.
No.
That's, you know what I mean? Do you risk that when he can easily just kind of throw something that gets tipped off somebody's hand, D lineman comes down with it? You want to do that? When that's not necessarily a strength of his. You want to build the game plan on the quarterback strengths. And so I said that I think this is going to be the conundrum for Sark. And coaches are problem solvers. You got to solve the problem. That's really the problem he's got to figure out if Arch starts a game versus Mississippi State.
Yeah, I will be very curious if Arch starts a game, if he still uses this as a keep you in the pocket. Let's not, let's kind of try and keep this more in the pocket, or if he does intentionally let Arch get out of it a little bit more and let him roll a little bit more, just so, maybe he has a different look at those screens and checkdowns to whoever the running back would be or whoever the wide receiver could be or tight end, that he's not looking over the O-line at it and not looking from that pocket. Maybe he can roll out and maybe he can run for a couple yards, but he's closer to the sideline so he doesn't have to take the hit. Those type of things. I'm just curious if because it seemed in the ULM game, they really tried to keep him in the pocket a lot more than Arch had done in any of his other appearances in the second half. And so this one, I'm just curious if they say, okay, we get it, but we also know what their weaknesses are. There's no way they can guard you. We don't want you running all the time. We still want you to make the right decision, but we're also not going to, put training wheels on you.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, because Sark always says they don't major in the quarterback run game. I think they're going to discourage him from running. I think they
could,
will.
yeah.
I think that it's only because of the depth at running back. Maybe it depends on how healthy Quinn is. If he decides, hey, if something happens to him, we can just put Quinn in there. If Arch ends up starting, this is the hypothetical. I still think they'll discourage him from running. Now, I'm with you. They still should move the pocket.
And that's what I'm saying is I'm not saying you're designing run plays.
Rollouts.
You're just saying
maybe, but I know I think that's part of the discouragement.
100%,
I think that's why
100%.
they're like, we don't want to move the pocket because he's a young quarterback. He'll see the green grass and then he'll have the distraction from what, like you said, they want him to work in the pocket and work the progression and not just throw to the deep ball every time, right? And work the progression down to the check down if that's where he needs to be, rather than, hey, let's put him on the run. If he's on the run, he's probably looking at one read and saying, all right, if I don't got it, I'm going.
Yeah.
And maybe Sark. That's why I think because I'm with you. I expected more rollout too. That was part of my predictions. And I think the reason we didn't get it is because he doesn't want them running as much. And the only reason he wants them to run if he scrambles and the pocket is collapsing. And like you said, he wants them to learn to work from the pocket right now. Because a young quarterback they usually rely on. You know what? If I don't have it, I'm just going to run, use my athleticism, and obviously the higher the level, that's going to be tougher and tougher for you to do. That's easy on the high school level, college level. It's like no, you got to learn to work from the pocket, work through your progressions, and that's what the Sark offense is all about. So I'm with you. I think you were right about that was something that was intentional and deliberate that Sark wanted to do.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about it. I'm not sure. I keep going back and forth on who's going to start. Right now, I think Arch is going to start now again. I was thinking yesterday. I was thinking, oh, Quinn's going to start. Now I'm back to I think Arch is going to start. So I don't know. Even though with the injury, looking at the injury report, I guess maybe it changed my mind. Even though he's just questionable, which Sark said he
But
was.
his
on
name
Monday.
on there is what not makes me question if Quinn's going to start. The 5 running backs on there when you include the guys that are out, that's what makes me think, hey, you know what? Let's put in a quarterback that we feel we can go. However, on the flip of that, let's not put in a guy with an ab injury to throw the ball 45 times.
That's because I think that's what you're gonna end up doing, right? You're gonna end up throwing it a lot. You can't just saddle up Jaden Blue for 30 rushes.
Seeing that report last night, you went, oh, if they got Quinn, they got to start him because you just go, we can't run the ball as much. Now, granted, on full force, we saw what Sark did last week with Jaden Blue. He may say, screw it. Jaden Blue and Jared Gibson aren't on this report. I know they got dinged up, but that's 35 carries I can got out of those two guys.
No, maybe that's why he ran it so much last week that Sark knew this was coming. He was like, nah, I'm a running back. I need this guy to get calloused up. I need to know if he can do it because he's going to have to do it.
And
if he can't do it, I need to know.
And Gibson's not on the report, so you expect him to be back and fully going, that wherever he got dinged up in that last game is okay. And you put him back out there and try and get him 10 to 15 carries.
Yeah, what do you want to do? Do you want to overburden an injury-riddled running back room in this game or a freshman quarterback? Who do you want to put more burden on? Because you got to do it on one of them. You got to, and it's going to be really hard to strike the ultimate balance. So if you're going to put overburden one of those, which one is it?
That line's still
in the first
39
SEC
points.
Listen, you're still gonna beat Mississippi State either way.
I know,
you're gonna beat them either way. This is about you going forward as a team. This is about how you manage the injury, basically the injury situation at quarterback and running back now. That's what we're talking about now, and how that affects the offense and the play calling.
That injury report, it dropped to 38.5, guys. Watch out.
Yeah, I mean that's but that was a shocking. That was a shock to the injury. I mean, to Longhorn fans looking at that injury report, it's like, how many running backs on there?
No, when Velton Gardner and Colin Page are on there, that was the one that we went, really? The depth guys are gone now too?
Yeah, but just looking at the whole list and seeing all the running backs on there, you're like, oh, it's just
It's mean they had to put CJ Baxter and Clay on
there. That's what I'm saying. But the guys who are already out, can we just leave? We know they're out for the rest of the season. Can we not put them on there? Because that is my psyche. It affects my psyche when I see all the running backs on there like that. I'm like, that's terrible. But I already knew that of course CJ Baxter and Christian Clark are out, but just seeing it there in black and white, it's a whole nother.
You think everybody else on the team tries to get to the trainer's room before the running back rooms? Before the running backs get in there? The running backs are in there.
They got their own section. At this point, they got to have their own section, man. They got to have their own section. Good that Lord. Is, yeah. So I don't know what starts. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it more on the other side. We'll also get into Texas' upcoming opponent, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. No matter what they do, overburden the quarterback position or the running back position, they're going to beat the you-know-what out of Mississippi State. We'll come back and we'll tell you why right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to talk some Texas football. Let's talk about Texas' upcoming opponent, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I was listening to Paul Feinbaum actually, and he was talking. He was actually on a show, and he was talking about Mississippi State. And here's his quote about Mississippi State. He said, "Mississippi State, they might be the worst team in the country, not in the SEC." He said they might be the worst team in the country, like in the country.
Paul doesn't like hyperbole, does he?
I mean, yeah, but still, exactly. I agree. That is him. Probably exaggerating a bit, but still, people are saying that they're the worst team in the SEC. Vanderbilt's a better team than them this
I
year.
can believe that.
And that's saying a lot. If Vandy's a better team than you in the SEC and have more talent than you, I'm not saying that obviously that can't happen, and I'm sure it has happened before. But Mississippi State, they're in some low times right now as a program, and now losing their starting quarterback Blake Shapen, so it's going to be Mike Van Buren or Chris Parsons who's going to start the game versus the number one defense in the country for Texas. Something else to think about, and I was looking at some of the stats here for Mississippi State, just defensively. They've allowed 69 10-plus yard plays so far this year. That is 130th in the country. They've allowed, how about 33 10-plus yard rushing plays so far this season? That is 131st. So you can run the rock on them. That's why it's going to be interesting to see what Texas decides to do if Arch ends up starting the game. Because I think when Quinn's out there, they're fine with throwing the ball on early downs 60, 70% of the time. That UTSA game, hell, he was hovering around a 70% early down pass rate. You don't have to worry about overburdening the running back, the injury-riddled running back position, because hey, Quinn, you put the offense in Quinn's hands, which I've been saying from day one. And Sark is seeing the situation the same way. Like, no, it's a third-year starting quarterback, dude. You can throw it on first and second down. We'll just give it to you. We'll throw RPOs, we'll throw screens, we'll throw quick game, but we'll make it easy on you. But essentially, those extensions of the running game, they'll just be long handoffs. That'll be a part of our running game. And then we'll supplement that with the actual running game. But I don't know with Arch if you feel that comfortable throwing that much on early downs, and maybe he does, and especially if they're short, hype. Remember, Sark also mentioned it was his fault that Arch was not in a rhythm during the game because they were calling a lot
Definitely
of shot
true,
plays,
yeah.
right? A rhythm plays, you get quarterback in the rhythm, boom, boom. It's just like a shooter. All right, get you a couple of easy, quick throws to get you in rhythm, get you confident, and then from then on, we can start kind of, diving into or layering the passing game with some deeper vertical shots. They didn't really do that with Arch. I'm glad Sark admitted. Now, we did not prioritize getting him into a rrhythm. If he starts in this game, maybe they'll prioritize getting him into a rhythm. But it's hard not to want to just run the ball on Mississippi State. Only 10 teams have a worse rush defense than Mississippi State. You can run the rock on Mississippi State, especially if you have a young quarterback. You can run it on them. So it's going to be interesting to see what the game plan is if Arch is the guy. If Quinn's the guy, like I said, it's easy peasy. You're going to throw it. Your early game pass rate will be 60%. Hell, might even be close to 70%, depending on what they want to do. And then, like I said, the running game will, be supplemented with that early down pass rate. With Arch, changes just a little bit. If you go look at the Mississippi State offense and what threats they have offensively, because defensively, the truth is the Longhorns really don't have anything to worry about defensively for Mississippi State. And I don't say that to be cocky or arrogant. That's not my intention there. I say that because honestly, that's just the truth right now. Their defense is one of the worst defenses right now in the country. Remember, Florida's quarterbacks completed over 90% of their passes versus Mississippi State. And here are their ranks for all of the major statistical categories defensively: scoring defense, 113th. Total defense 109. Points per play 111th. Yards per play 100 and I think it's 109th. 105th in yards per play. Third down conversion percentage 112th. And I think the red zone defense, red zone scoring percentage defense, they're 68th, which is not bad. That's about average. But Texas, unfortunately, is like top 5 red zone offense in the country. Scored 21 touchdowns out of 23 opportunities. So I think no matter who starts at quarterback, it's going to end up being I think they'll end up scoring a lot of points. It'll end up being a blowout win offensively for them. But I think it's gonna look very different depending on if it's Arch or if it's Quinn. The thing about Arch also to watch is, do they continue to throw that deep ball? Because Sark said a lot of it was game plan specific to ULM. They want to attack the safeties. I said even before the game, I said the verticality is coming back in the offense. Just watch. If you just watch Arch, you just watch him. He likes throwing the ball downfield more. Quinn operates within the rhythm of the offense and doesn't necessarily ever want to be out of structure and doesn't want to paint outside the lines at all, and actually would prefer not to get deeper into the progression if he can avoid it. He'd like to get the ball out quick, boom, boom, boom. First, second read, boom, 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 boom. Matter of fact, people were criticizing him as being a first read quarterback, remember, early on in his career. That man got to get deep into the progressions. Hell, Sark's talking about Arch getting deep into the progressions on the first play he comes in. He's like, yeah, that was a third or fourth reading progression. We're like, what? Hold up. The first play he came into the game, he was getting deep into the progressions. He does that naturally. That's what he wants to do as a quarterback. He wants to get deeper into the progressions because he wants to get to the downfield read faster. He's like, man, to hell with that first read. Get downfield. I think that's kind of naturally in the game. So you combine that with Sark's, he wanted to attack the safety, so game plan specific. But remember, originally, it's also in Sark's DNA, guys. Sark has changed now. He's evolved as a coach. What was one of our main criticisms when Sark first got here? Why are you addicted to the deep ball? What's your fixation with the deep ball? You have to throw it into every game. And if you don't complete it, it leaves us in second and long and third and long. And then he, as a coach, grew and evolved and started to curtail his deep ball fixation. But he wants to throw the deep ball too. There are quotes from when he first got here saying the deep ball is a big part of our offense and we're going to throw the deep ball. And we're going to throw it at a really high rate. And then he changed his tune on that because it was hurting the offense, and good for him. And so now he's a lot more judicious about when they throw those deep balls. But with Arch, I said it would increase, and now we saw it increase exponentially. And here's the great stat from my man CJ Vogel. He threw 10 deep balls in that game. In a small sample size, since Arch has been the quarterback this year, so one start, and then the action in the UTSA game, 25%, over 25% actually, of his passes are deep balls. Over 25% of them. Quinn this year is at 9%. He likes to go downfield. So that's something to watch. He loves going downfield. He loves it. He might love it a little too much. Well, he chases it. And now you have to refine his game where you say, no. If you don't have the numbers down there, if you don't love it, if you like it, you got to check it down. You know what I mean? If you love it, then you can throw it. And there's a difference. If you love her, it's different than you do things for her that you don't do for a girl you just like. Right? So like and love are different. Do you love that read or you like it? And I think sometimes he may trust his receivers a little too much, and he just likes throwing the deep ball. And nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think Longhorn fans are going to enjoy it too once he becomes a better decision maker about those throws. But it'll be interesting to see if he starts again what the deep ball rate is, because for him it's 25%. It's unbelievable. That's a really high. That's the highest for any start quarterback since his Bama days. If I go back and look, there's no way Matt Ryan threw it that much when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. I'll go look at his deep ball rate. There's no way it was 25% though. Not in the NFL. No. So you could make the argument that Arch might be the most that he probably throws it deep more than any quarterback Sark has had since he left Washington. Oh, sorry, maybe since he left USC, I should say. And I got to go back and check those. 25% is a really high rate, guys, of deep balls. So I just think that's part. So will that continue to be the case, or will we see the short game, the quick game, the check downs? That's going to be interesting to watch too. So offensively, they got that's nothing. I think Texas can. There are plenty of different ways that they can beat Mississippi State. I just don't know how they're going to decide to do it. But for the Mississippi State offense, they really only got two players that I think are threats that Texas needs to make sure that they have at least a game plan for. They got a wide receiver, Kevin Coleman Jr., who originally was at Louisville, actually committed, I think, to Jackson State at one point, came in with that same class with Travis Hunter. So recruited by Dion. And actually, I believe my man CJ Vogel told me that a Sark actually recruited him at one point too. So he's one of those types of wide receivers. He's a playmaker for him, leads the team in receiving yards. So he's a guy you got to watch out for. They got a running back, Johnny Daniels, who's in the last two games has shown some ability to make some plays in the running game, but they don't have a dominant running attack by any stretch. The scheme is going to open up the running game, forcing you to have to abandon the box, and that's the whole point. Their offensive line, it's about and they got average size. I mean, we talk about the SEC size; they're about 317 pounds on average, and that's actually for the SEC, that's small. That's the fourth smallest O line in the SEC. Texas averaged about 320 on the O line. All right, there's a little bit of Mississippi State. We come back. We'll get into the topic for the Big Fat Poll today and the musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast on a Thursday morning, and that means it's a new theme Thursday. And today's theme is since the Cowboys and Giants are playing tonight, it's all about running. It's all about running. All these songs today reference running.
That's messed up, man. That's messed up, right there. Not gonna lie. That's messed up, Patrick. That's low, man. That's a low blow.
Look, maybe
you
they
know,
fix
you know
it.
it's coming.
Maybe they
You
fix
know
it
it's coming.
tonight. You know, and
I hope they do. But I love the theme because everybody knows it's coming. I mean,
what are we all watching for tonight? The run games on both sides of the ball for the Cowboys. We're waiting to see that run game.
Wow. It's gonna. Like I said, Devin Singletary too. Right now, we'll get into it next hour, but he's running pretty well considering your theme, born to run. He's actually running pretty damn well right now.
And you can guess the poll might be about this too. So let's get to the big fat poll of the day. Text line's open 512-447-3776, or we'll get this posted up on the Horn ATX on X.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
Poll of the day: how many yards will the Giants rush for against the Cowboys? Let's see if you have a little bit more confidence that, maybe a couple weeks they're going to get this figured out. They have been tested. They say the too many guys are playing hero ball. They need to stay in their assignment, and it'll all work out. They have the personnel. If you believe that, and you believe they can fix it against a Giants team that they own, they just and say it's not going to be a problem. The run game on offense, who cares? Dak Prescott, I gave the number in the Horn headlines, 12 straight starts. So that one loss they have in there, he wasn't starting. 12 straight start wins for Dak Prescott. He just can dominate the Giants. So you figure the offense, fine, but can you stop the run game and get Dak Prescott the ball? So that is how many yards will the Giants rush for against the Cowboys? The options I'll give you: 0 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and 200 plus. Giants are getting around, 115, 110, 115 a game. Nothing major. So that's about where the Giants are normally. We know that the Saints ran for 140, I believe, and then the Ravens ran for 250 plus. But that throws in that they had Lamar Jackson, who ran for a bunch in there as well. They just basically didn't throw the ball. They didn't. I mean, it was
Daniel Jones can run. By the way,
Daniel Jones can run. They may run tonight.
Daniel Jones can run. No, I mean, trust me. We talked. Daniel Jones can run now. We know that. And they got. I talked about Malik Neighbors. They got a receiver you got to worry about too. Nobody, is talking about him because nobody watches the Giants, and I understand why, because they're they're probably not really aesthetically pleasing and fun to watch. But I don't know if there's a rookie playing better than Malik Neighbors. Maybe Jaden Daniels. That's about it right now. Is playing as well as Malik Neighbors is.
I mean, I put Malik Neighbors in the backfield and let him run. I mean, this is
and you know what? Against the Cowboys, that'd be the team you want to do it against. That'd be the team you want to do it against. Yeah. I got to think about it. How many yards you said the Giants are averaging right now?
They're just over 100. So that first game of the year.
Now they're playing the worst rush defense in the league, though.
Exactly. So they haven't been running as much. Just because that's not the identity of this Cowboys.
Yeah, because Neighbors leads the NFL in targets. So
week one, they did not run the ball well at all, but they played the Vikings. No one has done anything against the Vikings defense really so far. So then in week 2, they put up over 100 yards in their matchup. If I can find it again, against the Commanders, they were able to run the ball a little bit. And then in week 3 against the Browns, they were able to run a little bit as well, but they didn't run a ton in any of those games. So do you think that this will be a Cowboys team that actually holds them and they figure it out and they get them under 100 yards? Or is this, kind of just in the Giants average, 100 to 150? Does it go higher than the Giants average, but not out of control, 150 to 200? Or is this a bloodbath again on Thursday night and Daniel Jones runs for 60 to 80? Because basically you have to have Daniel Jones run for a bunch to get over 200.
Yes, you need him to get you like 50 if you want a 50 or something to get you over 200. which I wouldn't. I mean, why wouldn't they try to copy some of the stuff that the Ravens did? Now they are not the Ravens, but you should throw the quarterback run game in there.
Because
You're not the Ravens.
just the thought of Daniel Jones copying Lamar Jackson is offensive. That's why.
I want to say just conceptually you could try, but yeah, you don't have what the Ravens have. But no, I think right now between 100 and 150 is kind of where I think they'll be closer to 150 as a team. The Cowboys, well, I'll give you some stats on the other side, but and some other troubling stats about the Cowboys' rush defense. But I don't see how you, considering how bad you are now, you can't get worse. That's the good news. But I don't know if you're gonna grow wings overnight. And they got some serious D tackle issues, man. D tackle is your biggest problem, and then everything compounds on top of that. But how do you improve the D tackle? They just get better. Like they're arguably the worst D tackles against the run in the league right now.
Yeah,
I don't know how you improve that in a short week.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you fix that. I don't know. Yeah, I just there isn't really a way
for somebody.
And I know they keep saying if everybody stays in their assignments, but I feel like that just means don't get pushed. And they're not trying to get pushed.
Exactly.
They're not playing hero ball by getting knocked backwards.
That's kind of how I feel. Like you realize I think they're trying their best. They're just getting knocked off the ball backwards.
They're trying their best.
Yes, I know it sounds like something from a Sesame Street lesson, but that's the part of the problem though. You need to go try. I think they have to trade for a piece, specifically at D tackle. But we'll talk about it. But how many rushing yards? Oh man, do you think the Giants are going to run for on the? And you know what? It also could affect this on the Cowboys. They got to start on offense holding the ball longer and we're having less exposure for their defense. You got to start maintaining the ball longer throughout the game. You got to play more of a ball control offense.
Yep.
Now that's hard to do when you can't run the ball.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like that's part of being able to control the game and having ball control offense and being able to run the ball on offense, and thus you won't expose your defense. But their defense keeps getting exposed because they don't know how to control the game on offense. So that's going to be interesting to see if they convert, slow things down, a little bit more, methodical, and just try to work their way down the field and keep the ball. And so their defense only has so many, drives that they have to defend against the run. All right, so we'll talk Cowboys on the other side. Thanks, Patrick, for the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll get back to that conversation. I'll share with you some more sad, depressing Cowboy stats about their run game, and we'll talk about the matchup tonight versus the New York Giants. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Low, and Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, comes up with a brand new creative theme for the show. And the theme today is running. All the songs reference or discuss running or talk about running because he believes, as we all do, that you'll see a lot of, well, hopefully, for the Cowboys, you'll see some running on offense for them, and hopefully they can stop the Giants from running downhill on them on the defensive side of things. But either way, everybody's watching the run game, period. That's the, I think, main topic of conversation these days when it comes to the Cowboys. Can they run the rock, and can they stop teams from running the rock? We'll discuss that coming up here in this segment when we preview the Cowboys versus the Giants. Got that Thursday night game tonight. That's also a historical, I think, a precedent for tonight's game for the Dallas Cowboys that we'll discuss, and we'll get into that too. My man Patrick comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is also related to the Thursday night football game tonight. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day. How many yards will the Giants rush for against the Cowboys? Put it up there on X at the Horn ATX. Gave you a few options: 0 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, or 200 plus are the options we gave you. You can also chime in on the text line 512-447-3776.
And how about this? The Cowboys, and this was Ed Werder who threw this out there. He says week 4, their game at the New York Giants tonight will be the first time the Cowboys play a road game with only 3 days between games. He says every other NFL team has done it at least 6 times. He said the reason is simple. The Cowboys have hosted one of the Thanksgiving games for decades with the Lions. The Cowboys have played more Sunday to Thursday games than any other team. With the Lions, the Cowboys have annually hosted those games. So remember, only last year did the NFL embrace the multiple Thursday game initiative after playing on Sunday. And last year, the Lions went on the road in week 4 to face the Packers before hosting the Packers on Thanksgiving. So this is something the Cowboys haven't done before. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, considering the short week and coming off one of the worst defensive performances in the history of the organization. I believe it was the 9th worst rushing defensive performance by the Cowboys in the history of the franchise. That's how bad that it was. If you look at it, here's the stat that I found earlier this week. The Cowboys defense allowed 274 rushing yards against the Ravens. It was the 9th time in franchise history that they got gashed for that amount of yardage on the ground, or anything close to it, I should say. 274. They've also allowed these are the only totals where they've allowed as much or more. 294, 307, 274, 306, 274, 283, 289, and 281. So only 8 other times have they allowed as much, if not more, rushing yards than they allowed to the Ravens on Sunday. They're an all-time low, folks. And in terms of the rush defense, how bad it is. And I'll admit, I'll take the loss. When I'm right, I usually brag about it, but when I'm wrong, I'll admit it too. I was wrong about Mike Zimmer improving that defense. I was wrong. Dead wrong. I apologize. I thought it'd be more structurally sound and stable. No, it is not.
It is not.
Dan Quinn defense never looked that unstable.
I mean, it did in the playoffs last year, but other than that,
not this bad. It never looked this bad.
I mean, there
were times where there were times where it looked bad. 274 rushing yards.
I mean, but that's Lamar too. Like that's.
Man, I don't give a damn who it is. That's a lot of rushing. That's almost 300 rushing yards.
Yeah,
dude. At any level of football, somebody be like, "Oh, that's a lot of rushing yards." Yeah, you got a problem. If you told anybody any level of football, you gave up 274 rushing yards, middle school level, they'd be like, "You got a problem. Defense got some issues."
Were you playing a high school team?
Yeah, exactly. High school, they'd be like, "Oh, your defense got some issues against the run." Huh? No matter what level of football you talking about, if you tell somebody in the conversation you gave up 274 yards rushing, they go, "Yeah, you got to." Even back in the old triple option days, they'd be like, "Damn, your rush defense has got issues." That's bad, guys. It's bad. That's really bad. And then before that, we saw how the Saints, they were able to dice them up, and so we'll get into it. Unfortunately, Devin Singletary might be a problem for the Cowboys. We'll see. I don't think the overall running game for the Giants is a threat and that formidable, but Devin Singletary individually, they got some individuals that I think, if not held in check, can tip the scales in this game against the Cowboys. Cowboys should win. Dak owns the Giants. Cowboys are a better team than the Giants.
Yeah.
Hell, the only win I believe both these teams share the same win, right? The Browns.
Yes, they both beat the Browns.
Wow. The battle of the team that beat the Browns.
Did you see, by the way, did you see Deshaun Watson came out and said, I have no interest in being designed run plays?
He has no interest in design run plays.
Basically, where they were asking.
He doesn't want to be a runner?
Yeah, basically where they were like, hey, man, so since you can't throw now, should you run the ball more? No, I have no interest in that. I'm like, all right.
It's like, dude, you got your money. It's guaranteed. Just run. Usually people don't want to run because like, well, I don't want to get hurt because it's going to affect my money. You should just run because I'm done believing that Deshaun Watson's going to get back to his old self with the that's never going to happen again, guys. It's no, that you can't hold out hope for that. That's fool. That's a fool's errand.
Cleveland did it again.
And, yeah, they did. And I honestly, I thought at one point he'll get, as long as he gets back to that, that level of play where he was playing like a top 5 quarterback, and Patrick and I witnessed it because we were Texans fans and nobody was watching the Texans then because they were a terrible team, but he was playing like a top 5 quarterback in the league. Yeah. He won't get, matter of fact, it was the best performance ever by a quarterback on a losing team. I'm not making that up.
If you would have told us
it was the best year ever by a quarterback on a losing team, like in NFL history.
2023,
I do remember that.
2023 Joe Flacco is a better quarterback than 2024 Deshaun Watson.
Dude, Andy Dalton right now is a better quarterback. Go look at
38-year-old Joe Flacco is better than 30-year-old Deshaun Watson.
I'll admit I didn't see that coming. I thought it'll be worth the money when he gets back to his old playing, ways, or at least back to that level of play, and it's never happened. And I think psychologically it's due to him being now hated and vilified, and people basically disgusted with what they know about him as a person. And I think that has affected his mental psyche.
Yeah.
And it's something about some guys, they don't operate well when they know most people dislike them. They need to think that, because Deshaun Watson for a while, man, he was a favorite son.
Yeah, I think
favorite son, with Clemson, national title, and then went even from high school. He won a state title there. Like, he's always been below. Hell, Dabo was talking about he's going to be the next Michael Jordan.
Yeah, no, and then there's a difference of they hate me because they can't beat me, and they hate me because I'm beating them. No, they have legitimate reasons to hate me.
They think I'm a disgusting human being. They think I'm a disgusting, what I mean? They think I'm a vile person. That's right. Yes. That's different than we don't like Patrick Mahomes because we can't beat him and he's clutch as hell and we're all jealous. That's right. That's a different. I'm talking about actual people are disgusted with him and they believe that he is a horrible person and has vile character. You're right. I think that has affected the way he plays.
Yes.
Because basically off the field, I think he just goes into a hole every night. They're not telling him to make public appearance. Nobody's like, hey, Deshaun, man, these kids want to talk to you. Go talk to these. Hey, go out here and make this public appearance. Nobody's asking Deshaun for that no more. Nobody. He's like, dude, you go play football and you just go into a hole somewhere.
These kids want to talk to you. He's like, oh, is it a U3 group? No, scared straight, Deshaun. Scared straight.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, think about how that does to your psyche, though. It's like, you're not, you can't say you're the man. You're not the man. Because you're not playing well in the field, and off the field, nobody wants to have anything to do with you anymore. Nobody, no organization, no charity, nobody thinks you're cool anymore.
No.
Imagine that.
No.
Imagine being an NFL player and nobody thinks you're cool anymore.
No.
People think I'm still cool just because I played in the league. No, that dude walking around, I was like, yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're actually kind of disgusting. Mike, no, you don't want his autograph.
No.
Your son, no, you don't want. No, you don't want his.
Plus,
autograph.
he plays for the Browns. Get him.
Like I say, like that. I'm telling you, it's affected him, and he's never going to be the same. It's just never going to happen. All right, enough about the Browns. But there is a common thread. The Browns are the common thread between these teams. They are the sole win for either of these teams is the Browns. And so I don't know what we take out of that, but it'll be settled tonight on the field. So we'll get into the Cowboys and the Giants a little bit here. Before we do that, though, let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost the Mariners 8-1 yesterday in a game where Houston rested many of its players. Alex Bregman received a standing ovation from the Minute Maid inning in what could be his final game as an Astro at home, as he is a free agent following the season. The Astros now get the day off before facing the Guardians this weekend. The Rangers beat the A's 5-1 to even their series last night. Adolis Garcia and Wyatt Langford hit two-run homers to expand the lead, while Cody Bradford needed 90 pitches to get through 3 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run and 4 strikeouts. Kumar Rocker gets to start for the Rangers today in what will be his final home game for the A's in Oakland. In the NFL, the Cowboys face the Giants on Thursday Night Football, hoping to turn around their luck after the last 2 weeks. The Cowboys won 6 straight against the Giants and 13 of the last 14, while Dak Prescott has won his last 12 starts against New York. And in college football, Texas released their first injury availability report listing. Quinn Ewers and DeAndre Moore is questionable, along with Jelani McDonald and Trey Wisner. Running back depth will once again be tested, with Velton Gardner listed as out and Colin Page listed as doubtful to go along with Wisner's listing. Derek Williams is also listed as doubtful for Saturday. And that is your Horn headlines.
Yeah, I mean, Dak, as you just pointed out, Dak pretty much and the Cowboys pretty much own the Giants. And Daniel Jones is not great in prime time. He's one of those quarterbacks where he's got a lot of subpar performances in big prime time games, which obviously is not surprising.
That's only surprising when they're good elsewhere.
That's true. That's right. He's bad everywhere. That's a good point. I guess it's not isolated to prime time.
Yeah, like Kirk Cousins is good at like Sunday at noon, and then on prime time not as good. Daniel Jones just consistently not very good.
Yeah, but when he's throwing to Malik Neighbors, he's good.
Yes.
That's the thing. That's what you need to watch. If he's throwing to Malik Neighbors, watch that, because actually that's when he's at his most effective. All right, I got a couple of I guess these are kind of depressing Cowboys nuggets to share, but I was doing some more research about that Cowboys defense, and man, this is something that we should all expected. The opposing teams, and this is from Next Gen Stats. Opposing teams have called run plays against the Cowboys a league high 51% of the time. But like that, we talked about, the secret is out, the blueprint's out. Everybody knows you got to run the rock against the Cowboys. So the Cowboys defense is facing more having to defend more run plays than anybody else in the league. That will continue to be the case until they fix this issue, until they fix the problem. Through the first 3 games, they faced the fourth most rushing attempts, but teams have called run plays against them on a league high 51% of their plays. And of course, they are the worst rush defense in the league, 32nd in rushing touchdowns allowed, yards per carry allowed, 32nd in rushing. You're gonna look at rushing yards overall allowed. And here's something that I was looking at specifically, just trying to figure out like what the main issues are. And they got like 4-5 issues on the rush defense. The biggest issue is D tackles. They don't get pushed initially, and they are not stout, and they can be moved at the point of attack. All right, they can't absorb a double team. Honestly, they can't absorb a single blocking scheme. They don't do it very well. If you go look at a Pro Football Focus run defense grades for your D tackles, the worst in the league, and it ain't even close. Oza Odigizua is at 34. Mozzie's at a 27. So is Linval Joseph. Jordan Phillips at a 26. That's a big issue, and that's why we look at stuff rate. Stuff rate is runs you stop at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, right? That means you're getting pushed initially, that you are early on, right? In that play, you're able to at least bait a hold point or get a push. Cowboys don't do either. They don't hold point. They don't get a push. So their stuff rate, worst in the league. Not surprising. They only get stuffs, which is a run that stops for 0 yards or for a loss, 6.8% of the time. Yeah. So they don't get push, and they don't hold point. That's their biggest issue, and I don't see them solving that with being coached up, guys being developed. I think that's something you need. That's a talent problem. I think that's a personnel issue, and they got to go trade for another piece. at the D tackle position. So on top of you not being able to get the initial push, that's your biggest issue. And you don't really set the edge well. You should set the edge really well because you got 2 elite edge defenders. That should be the plus that you start building the run defense on. And that's on Micah and that's on DeMarcus Lawrence because they should be elite against the run. And what they're going to have to be to kind of make up for the what you lack everywhere else. But you should be able to set the edge. And I don't know why they can't really set the edge. And that really is how you stop any outside running play, or let's say the outside zone, or the stretch play, whatever we're going to call it. They're trying to hit the C gap and they're trying to hit the D gap. You set the hard edge, and then that keeps the rest of the gaps defined. If you don't set the hard edge, then the gaps expand, and it's hard to even determine what is a gap. And then this D tackle has got to be responsible for this big wide gap, which is impossible. Right? They always tell running backs to get skinny. The reason they tell them to get skinny is because you're supposed to have really small gaps to run through because the edge is set. Once the edge is set, then all the gaps, all right, that are right there, they're obviously defined. Those are responsibilities, and that I have the A gap, I have the B gap, and then you can start canceling gaps as a second level defender and third level defender. Canceling gaps basically means I know he's not going to run through the A gap, I know he's not running through the B gap, C gap. So when I'm running downhill, taking my angle to the football, I can almost guesstimate where the run's going to pop because I know every gap's accounted for. B gap, C gap, D gap accounted for. So I can get downhill quickly and know where it's going to pop right there in that C gap. Or if they set the edge, I know it's not going to be the D gap. The edge is already set. I know where the ball's going to pop. And so you can get down there quicker. And the Cowboys, they have issues because the edge is not set, not a hard edge being set, which means the gap's not real well defined, and your gaps are getting wider, and then guys don't even have to get skinny to run through the hole. You just got guys running straight up through the hole, not even getting skinny. They don't have to. And they don't even have to cut it backside. If you set the edge hard enough, cancel all the gaps, then the running backs start looking backside. Like, oh, man, I got to try to cut this thing backside. And that's when your backside defender's got to squeeze that backside and set that backside edge too. So you got to have guys, you got to get a push and hold point inside. You got to set the hard edge on the front side of the play, squeeze the edge on the back side of the play. Cowboys ain't doing that either. All right. And then we get to the second level. And it's, hopefully by then you've already, forced the running back, all right, to either spill it to the outside or to have to cut it back. And then your second level defenders have a chance to rally to the football. And that's another problem the Cowboys have in terms of rallying to the football. Right now, a league worst, this is a trend here, they allow a league worst over 4 yards after contact per carry. So let's just say you do set the edge, hold point, force the running back to get skinny, to barely squeeze through, all right, get past the line of scrimmage, and he gets first contact there, D lineman, arm tackle, whatever it is, to at least slow him down. But you're still getting 4 yards after the first contact. Hopefully the first contact is on the first level. If it ain't, then he's already got 3-4 yards to get to the second level, and then you're talking about 4 more yards after that. So you're having 4 yards at the first contact. Hopefully first contact is always at the first level, but it ain't always with the Cowboys. So your tackling is also bad because guys are getting way too much extra yardage after contact, after their first contact. And which is why you also allow a league worst 17 rushes of 10 yards or more. By the way, tied with the Giants. Interesting. So you get my, it's an every level issue for the Cowboys. Because it ain't just the D tackles are terrible at getting a push and holding point. It's also that linebackers don't tackle very well. They just don't. They don't tackle very well in the run game. They don't come downhill and tackle very well in the run game. That's another issue you got. That's why you allow more 10-yard rushes than everybody else. That's why you allow more yards after contact per carry than everybody else. So I don't know whether I think you start to fix the problem where you have strength, and that's your edges. I think you need to make sure you are setting hard edges, and then you get defined gaps, and then we can tell hopefully these guys are able to be capable, competent run defenders. Hey, you're responsible for this gap, and this gap. It will be defined for you because the edge will be set. And I think that's kind of where you start. I know it's very basic stuff I'm talking about here, but man, I don't know what else. You got to kind of start from the ground floor if you're the Cowboys of retooling your rush defense, because whatever you're doing right now is not working. And you would think, okay, let's load the box. Load the box, put everybody in the box. You got secondary guys that can cover. Got Trevon Diggs, one of these all-pro corner. You got Malik Hooker. You got some pretty good coverage defenders in the back end, right? So why don't you just do that? And once you get, your Deron Bland back, you'll have another all-pro corner. Maybe we should stuff the damn box and put our DBs on an island. We should stop the run that way, right? You're already doing it. The Cowboys, they play with a stacked box. And that's 8 or more defenders in the box. The 4th highest rate in the league. You're already doing it. Zimmer's already, that's usually a basic adjustment. All right, we're getting killed in the run game. All right, let's put another man in the box. Put another guy in the box. Let's stuff it. All right, you got guys in the box. It ain't open. So yeah, you have a light box. And this is what the problem with Dan Quinn was. Dan Quinn would play sometimes with lighter boxes or play with sub packages and lighter defenders overall. That's not really happening with the Cowboys. You play with a light box at the 4th lowest rate in the NFL. And you play with a stacked box, the 4th highest rate. So you're already stacking the box too. Gashing you with the box already stacked. And they're not doing it with double teams. I went and looked and tried to see if it was a lot of double teams going on. It was not a lot of double teams. No, not to me, not a gratuitous amount, disproportionate to how often teams double team on every game basis. They're not double teaming Cowboys D tackles more than they're double teaming everybody else. No, the Cowboys D tackles can't penetrate, can't hold point, and that's where it all starts to fall apart. So a lot of those stats, and this is the troubling thing too. Now you got to go up against the Giants, and I gave this stat yesterday because when I was doing the research, I was a little surprised by it. So you got the Cowboys, arguably they're one of the worst rush defense in the history of the organization. They're allowing 5.4 yards per carry, worst average through 3 games since 1979. Most rushing yards allowed, 557 through 3 games since 1963, and the most rushing touchdowns allowed through the first 3 games in the history of the franchise. And then Devin Singletary. You think, who the hell is Devin Singletary? Why should I care? He's the leader right now in avoided tackle rate in the NFL. Yeah. Devin Singletary is leading the NFL in avoided tackle rate. The reason that's important is because the Cowboys versus the Ravens, they missed 17 tackles in that game. Now, 12 of those were directly because Derrick Henry was just being a grown man out there, and he's one of the toughest players to bring down in the history of the NFL. But, on the season now, you're talking about 32 missed tackles for the Cowboys. So you're averaging double-digit missed tackles, every game this year now, after that disastrous performance versus Baltimore. And now you have one of the leaders in the NFL in avoided tackle rate. As a matter of fact, if you go look at next gen stats through weeks 1 through 3, they have Devin Singletary with 19 forced missed tackles, the 3rd most in the league. And the Cowboys, on their 32 missed tackles so far this year, it has led to an additional 241 yards on the ground through their missed tackles. That is a bad combination. So I'm not saying Devin Singletary is going to be the reason the Cowboys lose this game, but he is a guy that knows how to break a lot of tackles, and the Cowboys are struggling to tackle in the run game these days. And we know the Giants are going to commit themselves to the run. And if they don't, then fire everybody, because that's how you beat the Dallas Cowboys, who are the worst rush defense in the league. And then what they're going to hope is that they can stack the box, that you force the Cowboys to stack the box because they have no other remedy for their rush defense. And then they're going to hope they get one-on-one with Malik Neighbors and the cornerback opposite, was it Kalen Carson, whoever opposite Trevon Diggs is. If they get that.
I believe Carson's out, though, isn't he?
Is he out? Ooh.
I think he's out for the game.
Okay, well, that ain't good either because they're going to be trying to get Malik Neighbors on the cornerback opposite Trevon Diggs. And right now, that dude is playing like a top 5 receiver in the league.
Yeah.
He's number 1 in targets, number 1 tied for first in receiving touchdowns, second in receptions. He is 4th in receiving first downs. He is 5th in receiving yards. He is 1st in 20-plus yard receptions. I mean, the dude is a monster. I don't know if the Cowboys want to leave him one-on-one with either of their DBs. Guy's a beast. So those are the 2 players you got to worry about. If the Cowboys have to allocate all their resources to stop Devin Singletary in the run game, watch out for the one-on-one on the outside with Malik Neighbors. But I think Malik Neighbors is matched up. You try to get that as much as possible if you're the Cowboys. What do they do to shore up and remedy their rush defense? I don't know. I just kind of gave you the breakdown of the problems, but I'm not sure what they do. I don't know what to do when you have when your D tackles are your biggest liability in the run game. I don't know how you solve that problem. I I really don't know what you do there. That's a hell of a conundrum for Mike Zimmer. I don't really know what to do. That there really is no structural schematic adjustment to make there. I mean, what are you going to do? They get pushed back. They're bad against the run. No team's going to pass on you so that Oza Odigizua can become because he's a plus pass rusher at D tackle, but because he's undersized, that makes him a liability in the run game. Mozzie Smith is just a liability in the run game, period. He just gets pushed around, doesn't have great pad level, doesn't have enough power enough power in his base to handle double teams. So I don't know. This is probably one of the biggest tests for Mike Zimmer in his career to figure this out and have a short week to do it versus the Giants. All right. So we'll come back. We'll talk more about that matchup a little bit later. When we come back on the other side, we got Raj Rant. And Raj Rant, we'll talk about the Longhorns a little bit defensively. The Longhorns may have the best cornerback duo in America. I don't know if we've talked enough about it, but it's possible with the way Jadae Barron is playing and Malik Muhammad. We'll get into that a little bit, talk some Texas football on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. I don't think we've given, well, we know we haven't given enough props to the Texas defense because right now it is a defense playing at an elite level. We talk about them not being tested as of yet in the schedule, and when that will happen, we don't necessarily know. But right now, they're passing all the tests with flying colors. Number one scoring defense, number five total defense, number two red zone defense, number four, third down defense, number nine in first downs allowed, number eight, pass efficiency defense, number eight, total passing defense, and they're fourth in the country in interceptions. And a lot of those interceptions, of course, coming from the secondary. Secondary is playing really well. And I think it starts with how well the corners are playing for Texas. I mean, the two cornerbacks, Jahdae Barron moving the corner from nickel. Jalen Gilbo gave you the luxury of being able to do that, the flexibility, because he was so stable, earned the trust of the coaches to play that star spot or that nickel spot. So they moved Jahdae Barron to corner, and it has paid off tremendously for them. Hugely beneficial for him because he wanted to play corner because he increases his draft stock at the cornerback position. But also for Texas, it has provided a lot of stability in that secondary. And I would say that right now, I don't know if there's a cornerback duo playing better than Texas, this cornerback duo of Malik Muhammad and Jahdae Barron. So far this season, if you go look at Jahdae Barron, he has been targeted above all, I think targeted 11 times and allowed 7 receptions for 34 yards. But what do I always say? I need my DBs to just, as long as you make as many plays on the ball as you give up, I need you to make as many plays as you give up. And you can't give up a lot, right? You can't have you giving up big plays. Well, he's only allowed 34 yards on those 7 receptions, so he's not giving up big plays at all. And he's got three passes defended. Basically, that's interceptions or PBUs. He's got 3 of those on the season. So he's making plays on the football, and he's not giving up big plays. But Malik Muhammad, just as impressive. If you go look at on the season through those 4 games, 12 targets overall, 10 receptions, that 19 yards allowed. And he's got 4 passes defended, and they're all PBUs. He hasn't gotten a reception as of yet. But he's been as close as you can get to a lockdown corner. But Jahdae Barron, based on the Pro Football Focus grades, they have him with a 90.2 grade overall. Tied, he's in the top 5. Highest defensive grade among defenders in college football. As a matter of fact, you go look at his Pro Football Focus grade. It has him as the second highest graded cornerback in the Power 4. He's recorded, 12 tackles, got that 1 reception, but they got him as one of the top 5 highest graded corners in the country. Which, if he stays right now, if he continues to make those big plays in big games, and that's what he's got, big games coming up, Oklahoma, you got big games coming up versus Georgia, of course. If he can make some big plays in those games, highlight worthy plays, he's got a good chance to be in the conversation to be a Thorpe Award semifinalist, maybe even a Thorpe Award finalist, especially with the coaches taking a little bit of my advice, or maybe just great minds think alike. The narrative now is he's versatile, right? We start talking about, we got him playing corner, we got him playing nickel, that they even work him out in practice. He practices at safety, and he will play safety before the end of the year. I guarantee. At one point, they're gonna put him back there, even for an exotic look. He's going to play safety, and I think a lot of it is that's the story. That's the story you're selling to nationally to folks who are voting on the Thorpe Award, is that's what's going to set him apart from every other DB in the country. He's the most versatile defensive back in the country. Not many DBs are playing every position in the secondary. And that's why I said in the offseason, if you want him to win the Thorpe or be a finalist for the Thorpe, you got to start pushing a certain narrative and story. That's the story. And it's not a inaccurate one or a false story when you made up. It's true. He might be the most versatile DB in the country. That'll increase his draft stock, and that'll increase his odds of being a Thorpe Award finalist. But the secondary overall is playing at a really high level. But I think it starts, to me, with the corners. I'm a little bit biased because I played corner, but if you go look at the most in the SEC, the most passes defended by SEC cornerbacks, Malik Muhammad is tied for second with 4. If you go look at hawk percentage, which is the percentage of plays you make on the football, Malik Muhammad is second among SEC cornerbacks in hawk percentage, and Jahdae Barron is 9th. You're the only school in the SEC with 2 players among the top 10 in hawk percentage. And if you go look at Pro Football Focus grades on SEC cornerbacks, Jahdae Barron is first in terms of overall grade of SEC cornerbacks, and Malik Muhammad is third. If you go look at overall grade of SEC cornerbacks, it's pretty damn good. So the corners to me have been, and they've been so stellar, and they've been such a stabilizing force in the secondary. It really has allowed you to leave them at times on and on. They don't need a lot of help out there. And I think there is now this synchronicity that the secondary is playing with, where they understand each other's strengths too, and also coverage specialists, right? These guys can cover. Last year, that was your major issue. You didn't have enough coverage specialists, but now you've upgraded, putting Jahdae Barron out at corner, a position obviously that prioritizes coverage. Malik Muhammad playing more now as an entrenched starter. That wasn't the case till late last year. You bring in Makuba. Makuba can cover at safety. Derek Williams was dealing with an injury. He's a better coverage, probably your best coverage safety overall. He's playing more now too. I will throw out there Michael Taft, not a coverage specialist, but he's better in coverage this year than he was last year. And Michael Taft is, I'm not saying he's a liability in coverage at all, but not a coverage specialist. But overall, and Jalen Gilbo, of course, stepping up at that nickel spot, you have more coverage specialists on the field. Guys who can just flat out cover. And that has improved the pass defense, and it starts at the cornerback position. So, and out at safety, I mean, Texas, has right now one of the better secondaries in the country. I think you can say their cornerback position is up there. Like I said, I would put it among some of the best cornerback duos out there in college football. But the safeties have been underrated. They really have been. And Michael Taft, Makuba is playing really well too. But Michael Taft's playing at a really high level. He's one of the highest graded DBs in the SEC as well. So that secondary, I think the improvement on defense, the renaissance they're having on defense right now, it actually has started with the secondary exceeding expectations. And then I think from that point on, everything else, the linebacking core had their breakout game versus ULM. The edges, although I think they've been really good. They haven't gotten the sacks that a lot of Longhorn fans would have wanted. So I don't know if they've exceeded expectations. The linebacking core, I will say people will question the depth. Now people don't question the depth, but that is after we saw Leon Lafau and have that great game versus ULM. And in the interior D line, the acquisition of Bill Norton and Tia Savea and Jermaine Lole, those have been underrated because that group has looked really good. Especially Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton have really held their own as the front line starters at that position. So I think all of the groups, if you're number one defense in the country, all your levels of the defense have to be playing well, but nobody's playing better than that secondary right now. And I don't know if anybody in the secondary is playing as well as your 2 cornerbacks are playing. And they don't get a lot of love because it's one of those positions where you only get a few times a game where you're tested, and you'll be the more of those tests you pass and the more impressive you are, you'll be tested even fewer times, right? You'll be tested even less as the season goes on. And I think that's going to happen to Malik Muhammad and happen to Jahdae Barron on the outside. They don't get a lot of targets. As we talked about, between the 2 of them, they only have been targeted, 23 times between the 2 of them in the first 4 games of the season. That's not a lot. It gives you a couple of times a game where you get a chance to make a play, but they have made a lot of plays and they haven't given up damn near any plays at all. So I want to take some time to shout out to the Texas cornerbacks, the duo that might be playing as well as any team in the country. And if you look at something I love that Max Olson does, he calls it stop rate. because not only is Texas, the number one defense in the country, scoring defense, and top 10, top 5 in all the major statistical categories, they're number one in this category too, stop rate, which is any drive that ends in a punt or a turnover or a turnover on downs, but turnover on downs is technically literally a turnover still. So it is a punt, if it ends in a punt or a turnover, that's considered a stop for the defense. And Texas leads the country right now in stop rate. 89.6% of their drives the defense face ends in a turnover, a punt, or a turnover on downs. Second is Tennessee, 89.5. Third is Ohio State, 88.6. Fourth, Alabama, 85.4. You get the trend. All right. Some of your best teams in the country leading in that stop rate percentage. All right. So we'll come back. That is a breakdown for a little Texas defense for that Texas secondary. We'll come back. We'll talk more about Texas matchup coming versus Mississippi State on the other side. But next segment, we'll get into what the facts, what the stats. Got plenty of those to share from the NFL realm and also from the college football realm. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to what the facts, what the stats. Got a few of these to share with you. How about this one? What the facts, what the stats. We were just talking about the Cowboys and their game tonight. We earlier this week. We were getting into some discussions about underdogs in the NFL. And the Giants are the underdog tonight, obviously, in that matchup. But underdogs, I haven't even looked at the line. I just assumed that the Giants were the underdog, but I could be wrong about that. I didn't even look at the line. My assumption was that's the case.
Yeah, I believe so. Last I looked, they were like 6-point
I know.
dogs.
That's what I thought. But like I said, I will admit,
6-point dogs.
But there you go. See, that's a big dog. Oh, there you go. Perfect. They're a big dog. Big dog is considered a underdog of at least 6 points, I believe, or I think 5.5 may be it for some people, but that's considered a big dog, like a big underdog in the NFL. So NFL underdogs, big dogs of at least 6+ points, are now 8-5 straight up and 12-1 against the spread through 3 weeks, covering the spread by an average of 9.3 points per game. That is the best start against the spread for big dogs in the history of the NFL.
So is that another bad thing against the Cowboys?
I guess so. I did not mean for that to be the case. I didn't even know. I mean, I just told you I didn't know the number. I swear. I was not trying to be doomsday guy for the Cowboys. I swear I did not know that number. Patrick said,
but it's just against the spread,
I don't know.
It's still a 3-point win for the Cowboys is a Giants cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can still win.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's a great point. They can still win. Yeah, I didn't mean it like that. Dogs of 7+ points have gone. Yeah, that is kind of eerie and spooky. I didn't realize they are just a 6-point dog too. Dogs of 7+ points have gone 4-0 straight up. First time dogs of 7+ are above 500 straight up through 3 weeks since 1956. That's
crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Vegas just missing on some of these.
Vegas is just whiffing on them. Trust me, they will correct. I mean, they'll correct probably next week. Honestly, you probably missed out on the chance. But the first month to 6 weeks of the season, there are always little trends like this that Vegas is not on top of, like unders or stuff like that. And if you find them early, you can really catch. Every year it happens. College football too. They just don't really know the teams. They think they know. They don't really know. I mean, nobody knew the Minnesota Vikings would be doing what they're doing. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew the Pittsburgh Steelers with Justin Fields, right, would be, leading the division, one of the toughest divisions football. They don't know these things. And there are those 4 or 5 stories. They really tip the scales of everything potentially.
Yeah.
Early on with those numbers against the spread. So I think that's what it is. This, like I said, this won't last. Vegas will figure it out. They always do.
We'll go through these 6. Cowboys are 6-point favorites. So Giants are 6-point dogs. Jacksonville is a 6.5-point dog to Houston. The Broncos are 7.5-point dogs to the Jets.
Yeah.
Patriots are 10-point dogs to the 49ers. I still kind of like that one. Still like that one a little bit.
Yeah.
And the Chargers are 7.5-point dogs to the Chiefs.
Oh, I kind of like that one too. I don't know about Justin Herbert's
ankle. He keeps saying he's doing well, and then he had a setback, but then he said he's still going to try and go out there and play. And
that's the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't even want to win big anymore. They don't even try to. It's just a dog fight to the fourth quarter. Like, I will pull it out in the fourth quarter.
Someone put up the stat that Patrick Mahomes has in his last 8 games 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
No, they're not even fun to watch anymore. I'm serious. They just win. They're not even fun to watch. His average depth of target is like 5.5 yards.
And he still throws interceptions all the time.
If they're still winning.
And they still win. And their starting running back got hurt. They still win. With him throwing
they still win. Dude, they still but now they're winning. It's different. They win with defense now. People don't realize it. Spags and they basically got one of the best defenses in the league now.
I know.
And that's kind of how they're winning now. They just stay in games. Yeah, until the fourth quarter, and they're like, all right, let's go win it now, guys. Find a way to win it. All right, let's go find it. They basically so I think that line, it may, because they don't blow teams out anymore. That's not how they operate.
No.
They just find a way to win in clutch time. So that could be a close one too. So yeah, that's the Kansas City Chiefs are just funny now because they're not fun. They're funny now. Because they're not fun to watch. It's not I was wrong about it being a vertical offense now, and then bringing back the deep ball. Deep ball has not come back at all. No, actually, the offense is more dink and dunk this year than it was last year. Even with Xavier Worthy now being added to the mix, and Hollywood Brown, I guess he's dealing with the injury, but they are a strange like formula to win these days. They have morphed so much from the original start of the dynasty. And now they just say total. But you know what? The Patriots did that too. The Patriots were a different team altogether by like the sixth year of the dynasty. Like they didn't even look like the same formula with a game managing Tom Brady and a defense. They were a high flying, prolific offense. And I guess if you stay on top so long, you got to keep reinventing yourself. You got to find a way to do it. And definitely that's the case for the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. So there you go. That's what the facts, what the stats. Big dogs in the NFL having an historic start to the season. So maybe that continues for one more week before Vegas figures it out. And my man Patrick just gave you the matchups we should be looking at. So we'll get into that a little bit more, talk some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. But when we come back, we're talking Texas football. The availability report hit yesterday. We'll talk about what Longhorns are listed on that availability report. We'll also discuss the possibility of Arch starting, what Quinn's status is. We'll get into that and also talk more about the Cowboys and their matchup tonight versus the Giants. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, comes up with a creative new theme. And today's theme is all about running. All right, all the songs reference running. The title is about running because tonight, Thursday night football matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. All Cowboys fans are focused on the same thing, the run. Whether they're going to stop the run on defense or whether they can run the ball on offense, because if they can't, it's going to be a long, long season for Cowboys fans, and not the good kind of long. All right, we'll get into that coming up a little bit more because I want to talk about the Cowboys and their matchup coming up versus the Giants. Also, Patrick comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and the topic for the big fat poll of the day, Patrick, let the people know it's also related to this game coming up tonight.
Yes, big fat poll of the day today. How many yards will the Giants rush for against the Cowboys? I gave you 0 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and 200 plus. Right now, 100 to 150 is winning with 50% of the vote. 25% says 150 to 200. And then 0 to 100, you still get like 17% of the vote says that. And a few people still voting for 200 plus too. So you get some people that say, this is it. This is when the Cowboys figure it out. Thursday night football. It was the Ravens just played really well. Things are going to turn around. But I will tell you another thing that I just saw looking at lines for this weekend that will make you not feel good. And maybe this is because people are down on Dallas, but the Browns are dogs or 2-point dogs to the Raiders.
The Raiders. Wow. Damn. Are they thinking of, the Browns are, yeah, Deshaun Watson's playing, right?
I think the problem.
That's why they're underdogs to the Raiders. It's because Deshaun Watson is playing.
They still.
Oh, man, that's crazy to go. That's a playoff team last year with a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Right?
A 38-year-old Joe Flacco.
That's crazy. That's to me, honestly, that team doesn't believe that they can win with Deshaun Watson.
No,
because they got talent on that team. There's talent.
You still have Miles Garrett on that defense, who is one of the most imposing defenders in the league. I know Nick Chubb is out. Nick Chubb was a piece of them early on last season. He got hurt. He hasn't come back from injury yet in the running game. That will help them out some, but it does feel like there is no leader on this team because
they don't believe
Deshaun's supposed to be it, and no one wants to give him the benefit of the doubt to believe him to even just play football.
It's amazing when the team actually is inspired by that specific position, how the entire outlook changes, or the perception of it and the outlook from the inside and out. Like, look at the Washington Commanders now, and everybody's talking about the Washington Commanders. That was a dumpster fire of a franchise 2 seasons ago, and everybody's like, man, they might have found the guy. They're playing pretty well. It looks like they got a spark in that offense. Cliff Kingsbury looks really good. Everybody was mocking Cliff Kingsbury and mocking the franchise. You find a quarterback, everybody looks good. Yep. Same thing happened with the Texans. We lived it with the Texans. Dumpster fire of a franchise, fuster cluck of a franchise. They hit on the quarterback. Now everybody's a genius. Nick Caserio's a genius. DeMeco Ryan's amazing. Even though we know DeMeco Ryan's a young head coach, that's why his team's so undisciplined on the road.
Yeah.
All right. He said they figured out how to stop the pre-snap penalties on the offensive line, but that's just him being a young coach. He's got to find a solution to that problem. But we overlook all of that, all the downside to everything, and even you overlook like I said, all the dumpster fire issues and the dysfunction that they had in previous years. When they found that quarterback, everybody goes, genius. They got it. They figured it out. We've overlooked how dysfunctional the Bengals are, because like they got Joe Burrow. All right, good. It's like that's still a very dysfunctional organization. Yeah, they got Joe Burrow. They got a shot. Like, it's all about quarterback. It changes everything. And when you don't hit on that position and it ain't looking good, then that's what they're going through right now with the Browns. That you're tied to this. You're tied to this person at that position for the next, for the foreseeable future, and yet nobody believes that they can win with him. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you fix it. I don't know what you do if
I
you're
don't
the
know.
Browns.
And you still owe him a lot of money.
And you owe him a ton of money. Guaranteed. You owe him a lot of money. So you got to try to make it work. You ever been in a relationship where I got to try to make this work? We just signed a lease. Like, whatever it is. We
just bought the house.
We just bought the house. I got to try to make this work. And it's like, it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work, but you got to try to make it work.
By
That's
the way,
the Browns right now.
By the way, every other quarterback's got to look at Deshaun now and be like, thanks. So the guaranteed deals are officially done.
Oh,
That
yeah.
never happening now.
That's it. It's over. They'll always just point to that as the reason why it didn't work, and it's a disastrous idea. You shouldn't even bring it up. Don't even bring it up. Thank you, Deshaun. Thank you for doing that. All right, we'll get to some more NFL news, notes, and nuggets. I'm gonna talk Longhorns here. We'll get into that injury report a little bit. Of course, we'll talk Cowboys and Giants in their upcoming game tonight. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost the Mariners 8-1 yesterday in a game where Houston rested many of its players. Alex Bregman received a standing ovation from the Minute Maid crowd while being pulled in the fourth inning in what could be his final game as an Astro at home, as he is a free agent following the season. The Astros now get the day off before facing the Guardians this weekend. The Rangers beat the A's 5-1 to even their series last night. Adolis Garcia and Wyatt Langford hit 2 homers to expand the lead, while Cody Bradford needed 90 pitches to get through 3 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run with 4 strikeouts. Kumar Rocker gets to start for the Rangers today in what will be the final home game for the A's in Oakland. In the NFL, the Cowboys face the Giants on Thursday Night Football, hoping to turn around their luck after the last 2 weeks. The Cowboys have won 6 straight against the Giants and 13 of the last 14. And Dak Prescott has won his last 12 starts against New York. And in college football, Texas released their first injury availability report, listing Quinn Ewers and DeAndre Moore as questionable, along with Jelani McDonald and Trey Wisner. Running back depth will once again be tested, with Velton Gardner listed as out and Colin Page listed as doubtful to go along with Wisner's listing. Derek Williams is also listed as doubtful for Saturday, and that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines there. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened at the running back position for Texas this week, because we saw Colin Page and everybody was very, complimentary of his performance, over 6 yards per carry versus ULM. And now he shows up on the availability report as doubtful. And then Velton Gardner, who they brought in, because they needed some depth at running back after the C.J. Baxter, Christian Clark season-ending injuries, and seeing them on this availability report is just depressing. I think there should be, once you're out for the season, once there's a declaration that you're out for the season, I don't know if you need to be on this actual report, but I understand it. Does the NFL do that too? When you're out for the season, they still put you on the.
It says IR if you're on there or out, but yes.
It says it.
There's people on the IR and stuff that are done for the season for teams that are on there.
It's just depressing. But yeah, so I don't know right now if and of course Trey Wisner, of course, is on here as well. He's questionable, but I imagine if he's questionable, considering the depth issues at running back, I wouldn't risk it. So my guess would be that Trey Wisner doesn't play in that Mississippi State game either.
I could see Trey Wisner, Colin Page, or one or two or both of them at least suiting up. And then basically you take away their helmet until you have to give them their helmet. You say, go warm up, go do everything. And hopefully we don't have to, in case of emergency, pull. But we need you just in case. We may have to put you out there if everything goes haywire. But we don't want you. I could imagine, especially Colin Page, where you just say, you're doubtful. We don't want to play you. We won't play unless it's emergency, but we may need you in a uniform. So just be out there.
The Trey Wisner thing is a hamstring. That's why
that's
you don't mess with hamstrings. Hamstrings is just, they got to heal. And if you go out there too early on the hamstring, it takes no time. As soon as you accelerate, that thing is done. So I think Trey Wisner, you'll keep him out as long as possible. So I think they'll give him this week and then probably the bye week as well, and then get him ready. Just because, like I say, it's a hammy. It's a little bit different. Sense. I don't know what's going on with Colin Page, so that I don't know. So maybe right about that, you just have him suit up and say, hey, we don't plan on playing you unless emergency break glass kind of thing here. So just suit up for us because you just need another body. But man, the running back position, I do think at this point now with just Jarrett Gibson and Jaden Blue as your options at running back. Now, Ryan Niblett, number one, has got to be full-time running back. I don't know if he's splitting time running back and wide receiver, but he needs reps in practice ASAP, and you need to get him some reps, snaps in this game because going forward, Ryan Niblett is going to play a bigger role for you. If you have this many running backs who are going to be on the availability report. So number one, Ryan Niblett added as I guess your third running back in this game. And if I'm sorry, I think the conundrum that he ends up with right now is, if Quinn's starting the game, there is no conundrum. There is no issue because if Quinn starts the game, you'll supplement the running game with the early down pass game. All right. Early down pass rate will increase. That has been the case with Quinn. The last 3 games that he's played, it was, really high in the early game, early down pass rate for Michigan game was hovering close to 60%. In that UTSA game before he goes down, hell, you're close to 70%. You don't run the ball to your 10th play of the game. And, as I've said, previously, you got to give that offense to Quinn. Third year starting the system. Just give it to him. Let him, pretty much dictate the game plan. Like run it through Quinn. Get him in a rhythm early. Throw it as much as possible to get him in the rhythm and with those easy high percentage throws and let the offense flow through him. And then the running game complements the passing game and the passing game opens up the running game. And that I think is where they were going before Quinn went down. And then when Quinn went down, you got a freshman quarterback in there. Well, you can't operate the same way. And I think at least the mentality changed for Sark at that point where he wanted to balance the offense a little bit more with the run game. And that's perfectly understandable and rational and reasonable because you don't want to overburden your young quarterback with too much. That's why the pre-snap motion rates went down in that game because that's too much for a young quarterback to be navigating. Take that off his plate. That's an opportunity for a lot of pre-snap penalties. Take that off his plate. And I think that's within that, Sark also wanted to unburden his young quarterback by having more balance in the offense. And they did. The early down pass rate with Arch in there was around between 53 and 55%. Right. So you had just more balance struck in the offense. But the question is now, if Arch starts this game with the injuries now that you're considering at running back, only 2, I guess now 3 with Ryan Niblett, but you got Jared Gibson, who was nicked up in the last game. You got Jaden Blue, who just came back off an injury, so he has already missed a game this year coming off injury. And then you got Ryan Niblett, who's been playing running back for you for, I don't know, a couple of months now, been working at a running back for you. So do you overburden an injury-riddled running back room to try to balance the offense and, try to help out your young quarterback in that way? Or do you, overburden a young quarterback and continue to have the high rates of early down pass rates to supplement the running game because you just don't have the bodies to do what you want to do in the running game? You can't run your pony package, your most effective, most explosive, most efficient personnel grouping. You can't run that. You can't really, now I say that in ULM game, you had 26 touches for Jaden Blue and 6 other extra targets on top of that. So I say you can't have a workhorse running back, but that was workhorse productivity and workhorse usage that Jaden Blue had versus ULM. So maybe that's why he had it. Maybe Sark said, I got to see if Jaden Blue can hold up as a workhorse back because it's exactly what we're going to need with where these injuries are piling up. And maybe that's what he was thinking. I'm not really sure exactly, but that the conundrum for Sark is, and maybe if he strikes the perfect amount of balance, hits that sweet spot with just enough early down pass rate and just enough touches for his top 2 running backs. But it's going to be hard to do because you don't know how the game's going to play out. You don't know if somebody else is going to get nicked up in the game, which is what happened in the ULM game, right? You had guys get nicked up early. Jared Gibson got nicked up, and I bet Sark went, damn, so I'm not going to be giving Jared Gibson too much. He just got nicked up. All right, Jaden Blue, what I was going to give to him, I'm going to cut that usage in half for Jared Gibson. I'm going to give that to Jaden Blue. You don't know how the game's going to flow. So you have a plan going in, but everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. So to me, that's what I'm watching. If Quinn starts the game, no problem. But then if Quinn starts the game, do you want to throw that much with Quinn coming off an injury? Do you want to throw where you have your early down pass rate is upwards of 70%, which is what you were in the UTSA game? Do you want to do that, or do you want to take something off, the wear and tear potentially off of your quarterback and have them handing off the football a lot? If that's the case, do you have the bodies in the running back room to deal with that wear and tear? Like it to me, that's what he's going to have to balance. And I don't really know what the answer is. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, I mean, that's why we can sit and say we know Quinn is listed as questionable, but you look at it and say, well, does Sark say, I've got 2 running backs that I feel comfortable putting on the field, so I need to put my starter back out there, so I feel comfortable in him managing the game and him knowing when the right opportunities are and how to get into a rhythm and take the right passes? Or does he say, I can't put my starter back out there because he's going to have to throw the ball too many times? And I don't want him to, I don't want to pull him back from this injury. And then he says he's 100%, but then we put him out there and he's got to throw the ball 35, 40 times before we even pull him out of the game because we're just throwing over and over. And even though there's small passes, it's still using that same muscle that he hurt. So I don't know if that concept comes into it as well of whether you move on, whether you start Arch or not. There's just a lot of questions that you weren't expecting when you saw, as silly as it is, Velton Gardner and Colin Page. I didn't think we would be talking about their availability really costing you early, but that, I mean, you're just saying there's it's just empty behind you. I mean, you have Nibley who ran 3 times in last week against Louisiana Monroe, and then you have the other walk-on Reed Watkins who ran the ball 4 times. He is also there. There's a few other walk-ons they have, but I don't know the comfort Sark has putting them out in an SEC game. We know Mississippi State is not a super talented team. We know they're not, but these are still D1 like football players. Yes. They can make a play on any of these guys. They can make those plays, and so you don't want to have guys that you don't feel comfortable either getting any yardage for you / turning the ball over, which is what you really don't want to have, because then now you got to leave your starters out on defense more, and you don't want to do that. It puts you in a weird position. Now, again, we're crying from a yacht.
Yes, of course.
Because there still is Jared Gibson and Jaden Blue that are going to be able to play and suit up. They're not on the injury report. And, you're choosing between 2 of the highest rated recruits ever at quarterback to who's going to be playing. So it is somewhat of overstating a game that is the line moved, I believe, from 39 to 30.5 after that injury report. So really
1 point?
Half a point.
Half a point. Okay.
Half a point. So Vegas didn't seem too worried about it either. But there's a lot of questions to be answered. It'll be interesting. Sark talks to media today, I believe. And I'm sure he will get asked about the running backs and what his plan is with that. We'll know more of I will see if he says today whether Archer Quinn will be the starter. You would assume, at least in practice, that has been decided already.
Yeah, it was Thursday. When did he reveal it last week?
It's Thursday.
Was it? It was Thursday, right?
Yeah, he revealed it on Thursday at Archer Week. He revealed it in the opening statement, so he knew to before you start getting 40 questions about it.
We'll probably get it today. I mean, that would make sense. I mean, the gamesmanship is done because the game plans are in. If you're trying to get them to waste practice time, they've already done it.
Yeah.
They did it. They did it on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they did it today already. So, yeah, I mean, that's the game. There's no need for games unless he's – now, I think if he doesn't reveal it today, he genuinely doesn't know.
Yeah.
I think he genuinely is like, I really don't know. We are genuinely waiting until Friday or close to game time.
We could get a game time decision, which is we want to see Quinn go through warm-ups, and then we'll see.
That kind of thing. Yep.
Which we say I'm still, as much as I am not a complete worry wart about it, I if you have to wait till game time, you can go ahead and sit Quinn.
I think I agree with that. That I agree with. If we got to get up till game time, it's not a big game, so no, you can sit. That's kind of how I play. And maybe he wants to do that to keep Quinn sharp. You brought this up too to kind of keep him motivated and to keep him, obviously focused and invested. And I don't think you need to worry about that with Quinn as a third-year starting quarterback, but maybe that's part of the motivation. But I think you're right. If you got to wait till game time, then he's out. I think right now I will still keep him out. The more research I do on Mississippi State, Paul Feinbaum said they might be the worst team in the country. I know he's obviously there's a little bit of shock jock in there, but they're really bad. They're going to be in the conversation for one of the worst teams in the country. They're considered to be
starting
that
quarterback's hurt. You
Yeah.
can trust your defense. I'm with all of that. The question is, does it come back and say, well, Quinn's practiced all week with the ones, and so we go, well, yeah, then he's probably going to start because he's been practicing all week.
They had to have split those one reps.
Yeah, they had to, right?
That'd be irresponsible not to have split the reps of the ones. Just
like
considering he's coming off an injury, so he might get re-injured.
I agree, but
they definitely split those. I don't know what share. Like I don't know who got the bulk and who got this, but I would say that Arch definitely got some first team reps this week, if not half of them.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting too to see what they do with Jared Gibson this week because we know he got nicked up a little bit, and then I guess for whatever reason, because he's not on the injury report, so we never really heard what happened to him.
Good.
But he only had 9 carries in that game. So when you see Jane Blue have as many as he had, and then Jared Gibson only has 9, is this a week that you maybe try and put Jared Gibson out there a little bit more and get him a little bit more of a workhorse, right? Against a defense you feel he can go out there. Because if you can get him just 6-7 more carries to take something off the pay to Jane Blue, to get Jane Blue under 20 carries, then all of a sudden you still have that run game you had last week. You just put a little bit more on Gibson, and then you can get to the walk-ons and everybody else.
Yeah. No, I like that. I'm with you. I agree with that. If you can get Jared Gibson 5 more rushes or so, and then we can get Jaden Blue at 20 or a little bit below 20.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you could take 6 of those carries and put Jared Gibson up to 15, Jaden Blue at 19, then you just feel so much better about the split of that. I know Colin Page had 10 carries, so you got to figure out where that goes. But that can go some more to Niblett because you need to get him more ready to go. So I think you give Niblett a few more of those carries.
Yeah, Niblett needs to play in this game.
So I think that there's, you can move those around. It's just, it was that shocking of the injury report of what all of us looked for that injury report to see what Quinn was listed at. And then
5 running backs on there.
5
running backs on
so
there.
Many.
2 of them you already knew, but it still is shocking to see like that many RBs on there. And I'm with you. I agree. This early in the season, think about it, it'd be different if we were, week 10. It's like, all right, well, hey, everybody's everybody's hanging on. Everybody's hurt at this point. Yes, we are just embarking on SEC play. We haven't even got to the physical part of the schedule yet.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the part where you did have one big physical matchup with Michigan. But other than that, I mean, these are the teams that, you have a talent disparity, a talent gap on, a talent advantage on that is immense. And, once you don't have that type of talent disparity, that's when you get to the really physical play. And Texas hadn't gotten there. So that's the concern for me. It ain't that guys are hurt. Guys get hurt. It's football. But to have that many guys hurt, and think about it, every running back has gotten hurt now.
Yeah.
Already. Every running back. Jaden Blue has missed a game. Jared Gibson got nicked up in that game and limped off. All these guys on the injury report now. Every running back.
We're going to start seeing the running back names on here that we don't even know about.
It's like, what's going on in that position? You're going to see Tashard Choice on there and be like, oh, what's going on with Coach? I mean, that is, like I said, that's concerning. It's not going to derail the season or anything for Texas.
No.
Texas is really good, but it is testing that depth. There is testing the depth. There's no doubt.
I mean, especially if you can go through this week, you have Jared Gibson and Jaden Blue come through okay in this week. You get Trey Wisner hopefully back. Then you've got 3 really good running back options to sit there.
Bye week to get right.
Bye week. So once you get to Oklahoma and Georgia, hopefully you have those 3 ready to go, and you feel much better. And then you'd like to get Velton Gardner and Colin Page back just to have a little bit more depth. But you don't even really want those guys playing in the SEC.
No, you need Trey Wisner back. That's number one.
So as much as it is disheartening to see 5 running backs. In reality, there's 1 on the injury report that you actually want to play in big games.
Yes, agreed.
And so it's as much as it is, again, it's crying from a yacht, and it's just looking at it, and it's shocking to see 5 running backs on there, especially when you were hoping to kind of use this as a get well game for some of your running backs. Hopefully get a big lead and run some of those, run Velton Gardner, run Colin Page a little bit more in this game. Apparently that's not going to be the case. So that's where
Yeah.
that's
You
I
have to
think
take some of the burden off of your other
yeah.
guys. So you can take them out a little bit earlier. Yeah, and that's like I said, I can't wait to see how Sark handles it and what the distribution is and how he manages the game with the injuries at running back. And maybe he may just say F it, like, and just do what he did at ULM and be like,
Yeah.
no.
It may be like Jane,
We're
hey,
gonna saddle up Jaden Blue and he's gonna get 25 carries again and 6 or 7 targets, and that's just what we're gonna do. That's how we solve that problem.
I'm
And you know what, coach? Go ahead.
see Mel Kiper and Todd McShay breaking this rundown. Go get it.
Yeah, exactly. Because Jaden Blue, I'm sure he loves it because it's showcasing his NFL talent. Guys, he's the catalyst of this offense right now. If he had played in that UTSA game, he'd be leading his team in rushes and targets.
Crazy.
He's second on the team in targets by 1 target. He has one less target than Isaiah Bond. Otherwise, he'd be leading the team in rushes and targets. He's the catalyst of the offense. So maybe Sark is just saying, "Hey, man, you're too important. The offense goes through you. It flows through you. It really, you are kind of the fire starter, if you will, for us on offense, and you do things nobody else can do." So we'll see if maybe that's the answer. It's just saddle up Jaden Blue again. But then there's the risk of the wear and tear on Jaden Blue with games like that. But I imagine Georgia might be like that for him too. All the big games should be like that for Jaden Blue. We just didn't expect to see it versus ULM.
No.
I think if we had started versus Georgia or Oklahoma, we'd be like, yep, this is the game.
Yeah.
It's a big game. You got to saddle them up, man. Right. But versus ULM, we're like, so what? Well, that looked good. What was the reason for it? We don't know. Because it was like you didn't really necessarily need it, but it was obviously he wanted to showcase that. That was intentional. That was deliberate. That was premeditated. And we just can't. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was during the game. Maybe guys got hurt and it was the flow of the game. Nobody really asked him that actually either.
Yeah, why you got so many? It makes
like why was it something you thought before the game, intentional and deliberate, like premeditated thing, or during the game that you you look up and go, oh damn, Jaden Blue got 20 rushes. I didn't realize that. And you know what I mean?
Or did you look at the game and you keep calling runs and you're like, hey, is Blue still in the game? Why is Blue still in the game? Oh, yes. Everyone else is in the tent.
Yes, that's exactly because it could go. I think it could go either way, and either one I think is reasonable. But I would like to know because if he did it before the game and said we were sad, because I've been in the locker room I remember Major Applewhite went up to Marquise Goodwin. It was before the Alamo Bowl where Major, I think it's Oregon State, and I go look at Marquise Goodwin's his stat line that game. It was unbelievable. And the targets, they just kept chunking it deep to him. And I remember Major walking up to Marquis said, "Man, need to get a Red Bull." And Marquis was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because we going to you early and often." He said, "Get ready." He like because he knew it. It's already in his head in the game plan. Like, we going to you. We chunking it deep to you. Get ready. And we ain't taking you out to rest. You come right back. We're gonna do it again. And basically what they did. Go look at stat line of the game. It was something unbelievable. But sometimes coaches go into a game plan and they'll let a player know, hey, saddle up, get your mind right. All right, because we need a workhorse tonight. You the workhorse, and it's you. All right, and some guys like, hell yeah, let's go. So I wondered if it was that conversation happened with Jaden Blue, like Jaden, all right, you the man tonight, or throughout the game, was he surprised like the rest of us? Like, oh man, look at Jaden Blue's stat line. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. All right, as we come back, we'll get into Mississippi State, break down that matchup with the Longhorns. We'll tell you why the Longhorns are, would say, 38.5-point favorites now in this game over an SEC opponent, which is crazy. We'll get into that and talk about it, and also dive deeper into the possibility of Art starting or if Quinn's going to start this game. I'm leaning one way. I keep switching up every day. I feel a little bit differently about who's going to end up starting the game. Now I've pretty much made my mind up who I think is going to start. I'll tell you that on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas Mississippi State breakdown, previewing this matchup. And there's from the Mississippi State side, there's not a lot to preview there, honestly. And Paul Feinbaum said Mississippi State might be the worst team in the country. I think saying they're the worst team in the SEC is probably a little bit more realistic, but they may be one of the worst teams in the country just from what I've been able to break down here and research. First of all, they have only one win, and they have yet to be an FBS opponent. Their one win is over an FCS opponent. Keep that in mind. Their defense is their biggest issue, or at least it was before they lost their starting quarterback Blake Shapen. So now their biggest issue is they have two backup quarterbacks that they're choosing between: Mike Van Buren and Chris Parsons, one a redshirt freshman and one a freshman. So those guys traveling on the road to face the number one defense in the country, that's a big issue for this Jeff Levy offense. Now, the offense, it is an offense that if you have the right skill set for a quarterback, it can be a quarterback friendly offense. It's going to ask the quarterbacks to be able to complete really accurate passes to the perimeter to the wide receivers in the wide receiver screen game, to be able to isolate and exploit one-on-one matchups on the outside. And if you can throw a nice deep ball, vertical shots, which we don't know from these quarterbacks if that's going to be the case. I'm sure they'll test Texas a little bit. Now with Blake Shapen, his offense actually was an offense that could create some explosive plays. Remember, we talked about this yesterday, because it puts so much stress on defenses just naturally by the really if you go look at the kind of the DNA of the offensive structure, it puts a lot of stress on defenses. And at one point, those stress factors are those stress elements on the defense, they will give up an explosive play or two, right? That's just naturally the way the offense is built, with the wide splits of the wide receivers, making you defend horizontally every inch of the field, and the vertical shots that they take. That strategy makes you have to defend the vertical aspect of the offense too. And then they're supposed to be able to run the football effectively, because they have forced you to abandon the box when you have to defend the alignment of the receivers. And then there's the stress factor of your safeties having to have a lot of range to be able to get out to the sidelines, to tackle in space, and put and neutralize those bubble screens and those wide receiver smoke routes, then also be able to get back inside to be a force defender in the run game with the RPOs. That can be really tough. So a lot of stress factors. And with those stress factors, you oftentimes, as a defense, you'll end up giving up a big play and end up cracking under that stress, if you will. And that's why if you go look at plays from scrimmage of 10 plus yards, Mississippi State's got 64. Texas got 67. It's, like I said, not a huge difference there, because they're if you go look at rushes of 20 plus yards, they have, if you go look at Texas has 10 plus yards. Look at rushes of 10 plus yards. Mississippi State's got 19. Texas has 19. The structure of the offense alone, they'll get some explosive plays out of it if they have the right personnel. Problem is, now going up against Texas, they don't even have the right personnel, because Blake Shapen, was compatible with that offense, had some familiarity with some of those concepts from his time at Baylor, and that's why he was a guy that could make some plays in that offense. He now, with him being out, and had, of course, some success against Texas, but with him being out, they're not going to be able to operate that offense in the same way. So I don't know if it'll have the same explosivity that it had under Blake Shapen, and going up against, of course, one of the best defenses in the country like Texas. But it is naturally an explosive formula that the veer and shoot presents. And, one of the things they also have had issues with, and this is something Texas should be able to capitalize on, is pass protection. And now Blake Shapen is out, so this should be even more glaring. They've allowed 13 sacks so far. That's the same as UTSA. Remember, we said Texas should get a lot of sacks. versus UTSA because they had pass protection issues, and I believe they ended up with 3 sacks in that game, if I'm not mistaken. And they should have something similar in this matchup, especially going up against backup quarterbacks. Texas should be able to get to the passer, whoever it's going to be. If it's going to be Mike Van Buren or Chris Parsons, they should be able to, make some plays with their pass rush. So I would predict multiple sacks. If they don't get multiple sacks in this game, then that means Mississippi State must be running the football, and Mississippi State, they're a veer and shoot offense, so they do want to throw the football. They're not going to have success on the ground, not up against this Texas defensive front. And so something else to keep in mind, flipping the script to the Mississippi State defense against the Texas offense, I'm not sure what their plan is going to be. They are severely overmatched in all these matchups, but in this matchup particularly because their defense is one of the worst in college football. I was looking at explosive plays allowed. They've allowed 69 10-plus yard plays, which is 130th, and they've allowed 33 rushes of 10-plus yards so far. That is 131st. So if Texas can get some explosive runs against Mississippi State, then maybe that is an issue because that's something people have talked about, that Texas doesn't have a lot of explosive runs so far this year from the running game. So Mississippi State should be a team to help you remedy that. They also are a defense that is 10th worst basically in rush defense in the country. Like they are one of the worst rush defenses in the country. Only 10 teams are worse in rush defense than Mississippi State. So you can run the ball on Mississippi State, and honestly, you can throw it on them pretty successfully as well. Their pass defense is also one of the worst in college football. So I don't know what the game plan is going to be. Usually Texas will try to attack your weakness on defense, and Mississippi State's got multiple areas or points of weakness for Texas to attack. They could attack the run defense, which I've just told you has been really bad. They could attack them, and the pass defense. How Florida completed over 90% of their passes versus Mississippi State, and Florida's quarterbacks are not very good. Graham Mertz is efficient, but can't throw the football really downfield. And DJ Lagway is not very efficient, but he's got a cannon of an arm. But they combined for 90+% completion percentage versus Mississippi State. So between their scoring defense, total defense, points per play allowed, yards per play allowed, third down defense, fourth down defense, and red zone defense, they are 113th, 109th, 111th, 105, 112th, 117th, and 68th in those categories. So it doesn't matter if it's Arch or if it's Quinn. The only question for Texas is how will it look? But you're going to beat them by 35, 40 points, whatever close the number is. You'll come close to it with either Arch or Quinn. My curiosity just leads me to wonder how it's going to look, what's going to be the pass rate to run rate versus Mississippi State. Does Jaden Blue become a workhorse back again? Those types of things, like more curiosity, because I don't have any fear that Mississippi State can even make this competitive for a long period of time. Now, if Arch has let's just say terrible game, throws 4 picks or something, okay, yes, game can get close. I don't anticipate that happening either. I expect to see, if he starts, a leap of improvement from first start to second start for Arch Manning too. And I expect to see him check the ball down a little bit more. But I will say this, and I've said it before, if Arch starts, you're going to see the deep ball. It's something that he does naturally. He throws the ball. But even before Sark admitted that it was in the ULM game plan to throw the ball deep. I told you guys, I said, they're going to throw it deep more with Arch. All you got to do is watch Arch for a little while, and you realize, like, oh, he wants to throw it downfield. He wants to get deeper into the progressions, and he wants to get into the vertical progressions in the offense. Quinn's a little bit different. Quinn sets you up for yak yards. Quinn loves getting the ball out of his hands on time, in rhythm, on schedule. Boom. 2.1, 2.2 seconds. Time to throw. That's when Quinn's at his best. Hell, Archie's time to throw. He's damn near 2.6 seconds. He's holding on to the ball because he wants to get deeper into his progressions. I remember even Sarkin made the first play he came into the game. All right, against UTSA, he got deeper into his progression. He got to like his third progression. He wants to do that. He does it naturally better anyway. And he has a better deep ball than Quinn naturally, which they also admitted in the broadcast. So I don't think it was just game plan specific. There's no way over 25% of your passes are passes that are 20 yards or more down the field, and that all be game plan specific. Every time Arch comes in the game, you're just chunking it deep 25% of the time. No, that's him. He likes to throw it downfield. There are checkdowns within those plays, and he's deciding, nah, to hell with those checkdowns. F them checkdowns. We're gonna make a cert for Arch. F them checkdowns. All right. Like F them picks, F them checkdowns, man. I'm going downfield. He likes there's a little bit of the mad bomber in him. He likes it. And he's gonna get better at it, and he'll become more judicious and pick his spots. That was, I think, the extreme version of a young quarterback that was almost defaulting to the deep ball instead of going naturally through a progression. So he'll get better at that, but he likes going deep. And Sark, remember when Sark first got here, he was fixated on the deep ball and throwing it deep too, even though it wasn't a strength for Quinn. And then he curtailed it, realizing it was more harmful than beneficial. And then he evolved as a coach, but he wants to throw it deep. And Arch wants to throw it deep. So I don't think it was just ULM specific. If that's so, then why did I say it was going to happen before the game? Because just watch him. He wants to throw it downfield. Now, he may not in this game just because they've been talking about it so much, and then Sark's been probably hammering it home. Hey, don't chase the deep ball. Don't be throwing it deep. There are check downs there. So in this game, you may see him check it down a little bit more. They might not even call as many shots, which they won't because it's not in the game plan potentially. They may not call as many shots, but he likes throwing it deep. Yeah, he has over 25% deep ball rate. That is not coincidence. That's not game plan specific. That's Arch, and I love it. I love that. We can always teach the check down. We can teach him that. But having a natural deep ball, a naturally good deep ball, and then having like the courage as a quarterback to throw it, that's something I don't know if you can teach that in quarterbacks. And if they don't have it, I don't know when you infuse that and when you can input that into their DNA as a quarterback. I don't know if you can. I like that it's naturally in his DNA. You can teach a check down. You teach a guy to check down all day, every day. It ain't that hard. It's a check down built into every play. You can teach a guy that. Teaching a guy to be to go deep, naturally. Remember when Quinn first got here, they would criticize him for being a one-read quarterback because he went initially to his first read and didn't. And even Sark said we want him to get deeper into her progressions. Arch already does it. He's a freshman. He goes to third and fourth reads and progressions naturally. So now all we got to do is teach him, hey, when you go to that third read, if you don't have the numbers advantage, go to the fourth and take the check down. Just go take one step further and go, check down. And then trust me, once you keep going through that progression, you'll see one progression that you love. That's a deeper progression. All right. If they keep giving you the check down, because at one point they'll try to take that away. And when they do, you'll have your shot. All right. We'll come back. We'll get into Off the Record on the other side, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn and Rod Rivers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off of the record here. This is a cool story. I actually learned about it from Patrick. Then I saw the video here. That's how I know our phones are listening to us actually too. Anytime we start talking about something on this show, I swear on my timeline it comes up on my timeline, and I know it's because I'm telling you the phones are listening to it. It's weird. That's ever happened to you? It happens to me all the time.
It does. It does not that effectively,
It
but
happens
yeah.
all the time.
If I talk about anything that I might want to buy or any,
Oh, dude.
then all of a
I'm
sudden I
talking
got
about
50 ads for it immediately.
I swear, we talking about a sports topic. You were literally telling me this Tavondre Sweat story, and then it came up on my timeline. But anyway, no, like I say, it's freaky. But I believe it's Pete Prisco of CBS Sports who's telling this story about Tavondre Sweat, and they have the and he's sitting down with the pushing. I think it's Pushing the Pile is the name of the podcast that he's with, Pushing the Pile, and they're telling the story about Tavondre Sweat. And Tavondre Sweat, his time with the Titans, and they're trying to get him healthy. So apparently they had a plan for him, and he breaks down how the plan. There was a bit of a disruption. there was a bit of a wrinkle that they did not account for in their diet and meal plan for Tavondre Sweat. Here it is.
The Sweat situation is amazing because they try to keep his weight down. And when I was there, somebody was telling me a story about how they got a dietitian for him. Well, when the dietitian would make his meal when he was going home in the off season, they make the meal for him, and then he'd take like 7 Gatorades with him full of sugar. And so he was eating the good meal and drinking all the sugar. And they told him, you can't drink those and think you're going to lose weight.
That's one thing about the National Football League. They will have an abundance of stuff for you to take home if you would like. With refrigerators stocked with Pedialyte and Gatorade. Now the hard part is figuring out when to use each of these things.
I forgot the Toradol.
I wish they had more Toradol. But in these fridges, you got just bottles of sugar and salt solution. And if you're not using them at the right time, it can counteract the whole process. So for a guy like Sweat going home with 8 Gatorades, I can
they
see
told him you can't have that.
It would be a problem.
That's awesome. That's Kyle. I mean, that's Kyle Long and Mike Renner with the Pushing the Pile podcast. I mean, I thought he would have learned that at Texas. That's kind of what I was like. They didn't teach him that at Texas. Maybe that's why he was, But he was playing so well. I guess it didn't matter. You don't care about somebody's weight if they're balling. They're playing the best D lineman in the country.
My guess is he was told that, and then he was like, "Well, my guess is he gets told the thing where you get told, like, hey, you gotta stop drinking so many sugary drinks." And he goes, "Okay, well, I'll just drink Gatorade." Like, that's one of them.
I know they sold you that it's a very healthy drink for athletes, but it is good for athletes in a certain situation. But yes, because you need that stuff like during the game, it's good because your body just burns it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't just be drinking Gatorade all day.
You can't be sitting down on the couch drinking Gatorade.
No. There you go. So he is the biggest D tackle in the league right now. Well, at least he was when he came in. I don't know what his weight is right now. I think the whole point is they're trying to get his weight down, but he actually is playing well. He's playing well for the Tennessee Titans right now. He and Keandre Coburn, right? Also a member of the Tennessee Titans too. All right. We come back. We'll get into a little bit of Texas football discussion, of course, but we got to talk about the Cowboys matchup tonight versus the New York Giants. We'll get into the game plan for the Cowboys. It's a pretty simple game plan. Find a way to stop the run. We'll dive into that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, plays jams that were inspired him to come up with a creative theme. And today that theme focuses on running, or all the songs reference running, or the title is about running, because tonight's Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants game, all Cowboys fans will be focused on the run. Whether you're talking about whether the Cowboys can actually run the football themselves or can they stop the run, that's probably will determine the biggest factor in determining who's going to win that game is the Cowboys' run game and run defense. So that's why Patrick was inspired to make all of the creative themes, or at least the theme for New Theme Thursday, all about running. So we appreciate him there. Also, we appreciate him coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted at the Horn ATX. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. How many yards will the Giants rush for against the Cowboys? We gave you 4 choices: 0 to 100, 100, 150, 150 to 200, and 200 plus. Right now, 100 to 150 is running away with it. 48% of the vote. And then we also have basically tied there at 23% of the vote is 0 to 100 and 150 to 200, and then a few more votes for 150 plus.
Nice. There you go. I got them. Yeah, I got about 100. I think I voted for 100 to 150. Somewhere in there. I don't know why. The Cowboys defense the rush defense is atrocious. It's the worst in the league. It's one of the worst in the history of the Dallas Cowboys franchise. I should be in the 150 to 200 category. I just don't know if the Giants will be able to do it. They do have a quarterback that can run, and they do have Devin Singletary, who is one of the top 3 running backs in the NFL right now in forcing missed tackles. And the Cowboys are one of the worst teams right now in the NFL at tackling at the second and the third level. It is adding up for the Giants to have a big game running the football. I just think that it can't get worse for the Cowboys, can it? And if the Giants are running for, damn near 200 yards on you, it's gotten worse to me. Because what if these Saints run for you only like 100 and 190, 104, something like that?
How many yards did the Saints run for in the Cowboys?
Yeah, was it 190 or something like that?
It was 2 something.
It was 2 something, and then the Ravens ran for 274.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, let's see.
Was like, it was somewhere. I know it was close to like 200. But I know the Ravens was 274. It was one of the 9 worst rushing games in Cowboys history, where they've given up at least 274 yards on the ground.
Yeah, so the Saints was 190.
Yeah, and then you got 274. And the Saints, we agree, Alvin Kamara is an elite back, and they got a really good offensive line actually too. And we talked about their scheme and the cheat codes they use. And then the Ravens, they have Lamar Jackson.
You also threw in the fact that the Saints threw for 243 yards on 11 passes.
Wow. Yes, another thing too. Those big plays we didn't talk a lot about too. They've given up a lot because they've been so vulnerable in the run. They've been vulnerable to big plays the last 2 weeks. Remember, they allowed to the Saints. They allowed a 70-yarder, a 57-yarder, 39-yarder to the Ravens. That was a 56-yarder, a 30-yarder. There's that 23-yarder. They allowed some big plays because when you're getting gashed in the run game, all you can focus on is stopping the run. You'll leave yourself vulnerable to everything else on defense. Like, we just got to stop the run. We got to plug this leak.
Yeah.
And then I think it leaves you open to some big plays down the field. So I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do. We'll talk about it here in a second, but they better figure it out quickly, even on a short week. Against the Giants are not a formidable run offense. That's why, the Ravens, they got Derrick Henry and they got Lamar Jackson in the backfield. They can hurt you with the run game, period. The Saints and what they've been doing, Alvin Kamara, he's been known as one of the best running backs in the league. He can hurt you in the run game. Devin Singletary is not known as that. He's not known as that. He's a decent, capable back, but he ain't known as a guy that's going to that was one of the best running backs in the league the last few years. That's Kamara, that's Derrick Henry, and Lamar Jackson may be the best dual threat quarterback in history of the league, period. So yes, those are unique, freaky beasts that were able to hurt you in the run game. If you let Devin Singletary and the Giants, who don't have a great O-line, and Devin Singletary is not some generational player in the backfield like Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and then they light you up for more than 150, damn near 200. Wow. then it's true. Everybody can do it. I mean, we know everybody's going to run on the Cowboys. Doesn't mean everybody can. We know the Saints and the Ravens could, but if the Giants can run it on you to the tune of damn near 200, then everybody can in the league. Everybody in the league can do it on you. Everybody on that schedule can run it on you like that. If that's that would be my belief. If they can get to damn near 200 on you, if they get to what the Saints did, and all hope is lost. All hope is lost. And Jerry better get on the phone yesterday, and go trade for a D tackle, and be willing to give up high draft capital to do it. Otherwise, your season is lost.
Yeah, because you go up against the Steelers after that, who are going to run the ball on you with Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin. They're going to run the ball on you. Then you go up against the Lions and Dan Campbell. You're going to tell me he's not going to run the ball on you with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery?
Come on, man. Ooh. He's going to love it, too. He's going to be celebrating it. That dude told bite
and then
kneecaps.
The week after that, I believe, is Saquon Barkley and the Eagles.
Yeah. Good luck with that. And, I mean, like I said, I haven't gone through the schedule, but I can imagine it don't matter. If the Giants can run on you like that, and like I said, I'm not disrespecting the Giants run game, but there's no way it's elite. It's just an average to, above average run game. Hell, it might even be below average. I haven't even checked to see exactly where they are.
No, they're getting over 100 a yard a game.
Yeah, there you
so
go.
They're right there.
They're average to above. Yeah, there you go. But if they can do it on you guys, everybody's going to run it. Right now, the Cowboys are defending more rushes. Basically, teams have run it on them. I think 51% of the time they decide to run on the Cowboys, which is a league high. And they defended the fourth most rushing attempts, I believe, in the NFL.
Well, yeah, and
that's just So
if you take away that first game where Deshaun Watson threw the ball 45 times, Derek Carr threw it 16 times, Lamar Jackson threw it 15. You took 31 passes in the last 2 weeks. That's not a lot.
Yep.
And that's a huge problem if you've lost 2 games with 31 passes combined.
In the modern NFL,
the
team basically they're averaging 15 passes a game to beat you. Yeah, and that's the formula for Daniel Jones and the Giants. You don't want Daniel Jones going out there trying to beat him. You want Devin Singletary lining up doing it.
But that'll also tell you got to score early if you're this Mike McCarthy offense. And Dak Prescott, you got to try and get in the end zone early, not field goals, end zone early. Because if you can get up 2 scores, then even if they're moving the ball and kicking field goals, at some point they're going to have to start throwing the ball. Now they still have Malik Neighbors and they can go after it, but at some point they have to start throwing it more. And then you can hope for a Daniel Jones mess up and you get an interception. You got some good players back there. So, you have to try and attack early, but if you let it stay close and you just let them keep running the ball, it's going to be a problem.
I agree with you. I think you're right. That opening script for the Cowboys is going to be, that's important. Honestly, if I'm the Cowboys, I know it doesn't happen a lot. Man, you think about taking the ball. What Sark did that Michigan game, man, it's unorthodox. Like because you don't want to expose your defense. You don't want them to take the ball and they start running down you on a 12, 15 play drive and control the game from the start.
Yeah.
No, you take the ball. Your offense is prolific. You can throw the football. You can't run the football, but you can throw it. Really good opening script, game plan. Go down there, like Patrick said, put 7 on the board, and then already establish that, all right, you guys want to keep up with us.
Yeah.
Y'all better throw it to be able to keep up with us. Because Dak's lead the NFL in passing right now, in passing yards.
He has to.
That's true. Yeah, because they can't run the ball. They got the worst running game arguably in the league, so they can't run the ball. So they got to throw the ball. They can't because they cannot run it. That's nothing. We haven't even talked about that. We've been reflecting on how bad the rush defense is. Are they gonna be able to run the football? And they better run the ball. Now, you know what? We'll get into this after we get to the horn headlines. This is why the run game in this specific matchup is going to be really important for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Giants can rush the passer. We'll talk about it. Nobody's paying attention to it.
No.
They can rush the passer. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know it came out. Last year, they were terrible at it. This year, talking about a team that's second in the NFL in sacks.
I gotta look at but I've seen some stuff that Zeke's not even doing pass pro great this year. His pass pro numbers are down.
I can believe that.
So it was like the whole shining quality. Well, he may suck at running the football, but at least he'll protect your quarterback.
He'll protect your quarterback. It's like, not so much. I'm telling you. I was a little surprised. So we'll get into that and talk about it. But I do think ultimately for the Cowboys, man, you got to be able to run the rock a little bit just to ease the burden of pass protection.
Yeah.
All right. Before we do that, though, let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories today with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
Oops. All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost the Mariners 8-1 yesterday in a game where Houston rested many of its players. Alex Bregman received a standing ovation from the Minute Maid crowd while being pulled in the fourth inning of what could be his final game as an Astro at home, as he is a free agent following the season. The Astros now get the day off before facing the Guardians this weekend. The Rangers beat the A's 5-1 to even their series last night. Adolis Garcia and Wyatt Langford hit two-run homers to expand the lead, while Cody Bradford needed 90 pitches to get through 3 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run with 4 strikeouts. Kumar Rocker gets to start for the Rangers today in what will be the final home game for the A's in Oakland. In the NFL, the Cowboys face the Giants on Thursday Night Football, hoping to turn around their luck after the last 2 weeks. The Cowboys won 6 straight against the Giants in 13 of the last 14. And Dak Prescott has won his last 12 starts against New York. And in college football, Texas released their first injury availability report, listing Quinn Ewers and DeAndre Moore as questionable alongside Jelani McDonald and Trey Wisner. Running back depth will once again be tested, with Velton Gardner listed as out and Colin Page listed as doubtful, going along with Wisner's listing. Derek Williams is also listed as doubtful for Saturday, and that is your Horn headlines.
Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Yes, get back to this Cowboys-Giants matchup. Yeah, the Giants had, most of the reason that I think they're second in sacks in the NFL behind the Minnesota Vikings. That Brian Flores defense is causing a lot of problems for quarterbacks. They got 16 sacks. Giants got 14 sacks right now, and it's because of that game against the Browns. They had 8 sacks in that game against Cleveland. Remember, the Cowboys played Cleveland. They had 6 sacks in that game.
Yeah.
Where they played Cleveland. So, I mean, that's definitely a stat pattern for you. But they had 8 sacks versus Cleveland. They had 5 versus Washington. So this is a team that's been getting after the quarterback better the last couple of weeks. Last year, they were terrible at getting after the opposing passer, 5.8% sack rate. Now they're at 15.6%. The Cowboys are allowing 3 sacks a game right now. I know. Yeah. Now, I say the trend to pay attention to is the Giants have just not been able to get to Dak at all. They haven't sacked Dak since week 15 of 2021. So they hadn't been able to sack him at all in the last few years, but they're really good this year. And that's why it's going to be important for the Cowboys to be able to run the rock. Now, the 3rd worst rushing offense in the NFL right now. So that's a challenge for the Cowboys. And this is the stat that really just blows me away. Cowboys currently the only team in the NFL that doesn't have a quarterback or a running back with a run over 10 yards. CeeDee Lamb's got a reverse that he ran for 12 yards, but that's the longest run for the Cowboys. Rico Dowdle has the longest run for any skill player in the backfield, quarterback or running back, and that's a 10-yard run. They just have no explosivity in the backfield at all. And you don't want Dak running around, so you don't want to add, that as a risk element to Dak's games. You don't want him running. So really the Cowboys are right now, they're a one-dimensional offense. And it's because their running game is as bad as we've seen it. It's the 3rd fewest amount of total rushing yards for a Cowboys team that they've had through the first 3 games in the history of the franchise. So it's a really bad, terrible, no good, horrible run game for the Cowboys. And so they got to fix that too in this game versus the Giants. The Giants will probably be a good test for the Cowboys run game to see if they can try to muster up some identity in the run game at all. But they can't put too much burden on just dropping back to throw the football, because this Giant squad, they actually can rush the passer. So if they're going to throw it on early downs and try not to be predictable, because right now they're just way too one-dimensional throwing the football. Now, Giants don't score a lot of points. Giants are 29th, I believe, in points per game. So they don't. If you can get to 24 points, Giants, so that's probably it for the Giants. Like they're not going to score a ton of points. They're like I said, they're averaging I think 15 points per game, something like that. And the Cowboys, Cowboys can score. Right now, the problem is Cowboys scoring defense is bad. They're 30th in the NFL in scoring defense, and Giants are really bad in scoring offense. I think the Giants are 29th in scoring offense. Cowboys are 30th in scoring defense. So I don't know which one, ends up winning this battle of the bottom feeders there that matchup. I'm not sure, but I know the Cowboys can score. The Cowboys can score. The Cowboys are averaging, right now, I think they're one of the leaders, like 25 points per game, somewhere around there. So the Cowboys, they can get to, I think if they get to 24 points, I don't know if the Giants can match you. They just don't necessarily have firepower. But firepower, speaking of that, they do have Malik Neighbors, and I brought this up earlier. If you want to jump to the Cowboys defense versus the Giants offense, only two things that the Cowboys got to worry about. Well, 3 players, but 2 elements. First of all, they got to worry about the run game, and that's Daniel Jones and Devin Singletary. And I brought this number up before. First of all, Daniel Jones can run. And for people who haven't watched, Daniel Jones can run. All right. And they can use him as a plus one in the running game. So the Cowboys got to be aware of that. But something else that the Cowboys need to be aware of is that Devin Singletary is actually pretty elusive. No, not pretty elusive. He's one of the most elusive running backs right now in the league. Devin Singletary has forced 19 missed tackles so far this year. It's the 3rd most in the league. And for a Cowboys team who have allowed 241 yards as a result of missed tackles in the first 3 weeks, that is concerning. If you go look at forced missed tackle rate, avoided tackle rate, I should say, is the way they put it. Devin Singletary is leading the NFL in avoided tackle rate. So in a nutshell, he's really tough to tackle, period. I wouldn't be worried about that if the Cowboys weren't so bad at tackling at the 2nd and the 3rd level, which they have been. That's why opposing running backs against the Cowboys, they're averaging 39 points per game in the fantasy realm. And this is like for a DraftKings fantasy round, but still, that's a lot of points to running backs because as a running back, you can eat against the Cowboys defense, and mostly because of the missed tackles and explosive plays you're going to get on the 2nd and 3rd level. Derrick Henry forced 12 missed tackles on his own, but he's one of the toughest backs to bring down, period, in the history of the NFL. But the Cowboys missed 17 tackles in that game versus the Ravens, 17 of them. So in all, they've missed 32 tackles on the season in 3 games. That's averaging double-digit missed tackles per game, and against one of the top 3 most elusive running backs right now in football, that could be a problem at the 2nd and 3rd level. That's what I worry about with the Cowboys. And that's why if you go look at the yards after contact per carry for the Cowboys, it's troubling. Yards after contact per carry for the Cowboys, league worst, over 4 yards after contact per carry. So whenever first contact is, you are already guaranteed against the Cowboys an average of 4 yards after that. And the problem is first contact ain't necessarily at the first line of defense. It's not necessarily at the line of scrimmage. It's where it should be, but it ain't always with the Cowboys. If you go look at stuff rate, which is runs that are stopped at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, the stuff rate for the Dallas Cowboys is also the worst in the league, which means they don't get any penetration up front, and they don't stand their ground. So they don't hold point and they don't penetrate. And that's what you need from your D tackles in the ring. I need you to penetrate or I need you to hold point. You got to do either or of those things. You can do both, great, but you can do either or, hold point, penetrate. We'd much rather you penetrate, but some coaches, they don't want you to penetrate because they don't want to create gaps. They don't want to create gaps in the run defense. So they ask you literally, hold point, hold your gap. All right, I need you to hold point right here and boom, take up this gap. Depends on the run scheme that you have. And the Cowboys, their D tackles don't do either. And they got the lowest graded D tackles and run defense in the league. Oza Odighizuwa 34, Mazi 27, Linval Joseph 27, Jordan Phillips 26. So Pro Football Focus run defense grades. They're terrible. And they get pushed back. So they don't hold point and they don't penetrate. And so all they do is get pushed back. And that initially is the biggest issue with the Cowboys rush defense, is that when those guys get pushed back, you're just creating bigger running lanes, right? They always tell running backs to get skinny, get small. They tell them to get skinny and get small so they can run through those very small gaps that are created, because the defense is always squeezing those gaps. I'm squeezing those. I'm trying to squeeze that thing down to make it so small you can't fit through it. All right. And that's what they tell running backs. And it's not literally get small, but they tell them, hey, get small, get skinny. I mean, I need you to fit through that very small gap that's going to be created. But for the Cowboys, those gaps are big. You ain't got to get skinny and get small. You can get big and get through them gaps. They're wide because the D tackles get blown off the ball and they don't hold their ground. They don't stand point. They don't penetrate. And then on the edges, you got the Cowboys should be, honestly, they should be one of the best edge defenses in the NFL, because they have two really elite edge defenders in DeMarcus Lawrence and Michael Parsons. But on the outside runs, zone runs, outside zone, stretch runs, you got to set the edge. You got to set a hard edge, and they can do it. That's probably where you're going to start rebuilding this rush defense, is on the edges. They set the hard edge, and that defines the gaps for everybody else. If you don't set the hard edge, then every gap is expanding, getting wider and wider. The running back's got all types of choices, and then you as a defender, you don't know what gap he's going to run through. What you want to do is set the hard edge, all right? And hopefully you got D tackles that are holding their ground or standing their ground. They're holding point or penetrating. So they have eliminated gaps inside. You've defined all the gaps because you set the hard edge. And as a defender on the second and third level, I can cancel gaps, meaning I know he can't run through the A gap, can't run through the B gap. I can almost predict where the run's going to spill. Therefore, adjust my angle to the football, because I know, well, he ain't running through the A and the B gap because my guy's got those gaps closed off. Can't run through that D gap because that D gap's canceled. He's going to run through that C gap. I'm going to meet him right there in the C gap too. Boom. And you can kind of predict where the ball is going to spill. And that's based on if you know what everybody's gap assignments are, and if they're gap sound and there's gap integrity within defense. Cowboys don't have that. So the second level guys have no idea where the ball's going to pop. So they're just looking around guessing at the last second. That's why they always look out of position when they're met with the ball carriers. Like, they look like they're surprised. Yeah, they are surprised. Nobody had any idea where the ball was going to pop. All right, where the ball was going to spill out to. So that's like the two big issues. And then I think the third is they can't tackle on the second level. And that all leads to you having potentially the worst rush defense in the league. And that's why Dallas is facing run plays on 51% of their defensive plays. That's a league high. And they face the fourth most rushing attempts in the NFL. That'll continue to be the case, because the formula to beat the Cowboys is simple. You're an idiot. You're an idiot if you don't. That's imbecilic if you don't run the ball versus the Cowboys. They're the worst rush defense in the league, and it's arguably one of the worst rush defense in the history of the Dallas Cowboys organization. And so if you go look at they don't penetrate and stop the run and shut the line of scrimmage. When they do make contact, you still get 4 yards after that because they don't tackle really well on the second and the third level. And I don't know how necessarily they solve that or remedy that in a short week if you're the Dallas Cowboys. So and you would think, okay, they just stuff the box. They're just going to stuff the box and load the box with 8 guys in the box, leave Trevon Diggs and the DBs on an island and just say, go with God. Yeah, they've done that. Still hadn't worked out for you. They load the box at the 4th highest rate in the league. 8 or more defenders in the box. Still getting gashed. Because it doesn't matter. If you don't have a D tackles that can at least hold point, it don't matter how many guys you put in that box. It don't matter. Your rush defense will always break down if you have D tackles that cannot hold point or penetrate. It doesn't. So it doesn't matter. They're loading the box, guys. The fourth highest rate in the league. It don't matter. Teams are still running downhill on them. And that'll continue to be the case. I think Jerry's got to go out and go get him some D tackles. I think it's just that simple. And I think ultimately if he does that, then you can see it change. I don't know if these guys are, going to be able to, overnight grow wings and be able to contribute as adequate run defenders against the Cowboys. They're not facing adequate run defenders for the Cowboys. They're not seeing a lot of double teams either. A lot of these are single single blocks, one-on-one blocking schemes. Cowboys just cannot win their one-on-ones, and they can't penetrate or hold point initially at D tackle. So that's where it starts. So in addition to stopping the run game, Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary, which could be a challenge for the Cowboys, the Malik Neighbors thing, it's scary. And here's why the Malik Neighbors, because, and I think the Cowboys should be able to limit Malik Neighbors and the damage he can do, because you got Trevon Diggs, you got an all-pro corner. Now, I don't know how often they're going to be matched up, right? Or remember, they had some beef in the offseason because when Malik Neighbors was asked, hey, what cornerback do you look most forward to playing up against? He said Trevon Diggs. And then him and Trevon Diggs went back and forth on social media, tweeting ninja emojis and coughing emojis and young boys, NBA young boy songs and lyrics to songs like that. I'm not going to go into detail, but they had beef. All right. So both of these guys will be really excited about matching up against each other in prime time to settle their beef that they had on social media. But here's the hope for the Cowboys. If you look at pre-snap alignment for Malik Neighbors, and Malik Neighbors is a beast. He's number one in the NFL. He's leading the NFL. He's a rookie, leading the NFL in targets, leading the NFL in tied for the NFL lead in receiving touchdowns, tied for the NFL lead. Actually, he's got the lone NFL lead in 20-plus yard receptions. He's first there. He's got 6 of those. He's second in receptions overall. He is 4th in receiving first downs, and he is 5th in receiving yards, having a monster year. But he does a lot of his damage from the left side of the formation. It's very strange. Like his receiving yards, 187 of his receiving yards are from the left side. All 3 of his receiving touchdowns, he's on the left side of the formation. His yards per reception on the left side, 14.4. His yards per reception on the right side, 8.4. I don't know if it's a Daniel Jones thing or if it's a Malik Neighbors thing. But if you're the Cowboys, just know on the left side, he does a lot of his damage. Maybe just put Trevon Diggs on the right side for the Cowboys on their left side and say, hey, man, he's going to line up over here because that's where he eats. This is his bread and butter side. This is where he does most of his damage. When he lines up over here, you shut him down. We won't have you shadowing him, because sometimes when you shadow, you reveal a lot of the responsibilities of the defense, especially when they motion the guy and you're shadowing him, you're following him around the formation. You can only be so flexible and so malleable before you're going to have identifiers that are revealed and exposed based on where you're lining up. And most time you're playing a man coverage, or you can play a man within the zone, but it can get very complicated in that regard. And I think in order to still try to match up on it as much as possible, but not have to violate the structural integrity of your defense by having someone shadow a player all across the field and all around the field, you could just line Trevon Diggs up on the Cowboys' right side, the left side of their formation, but your right side, and just say, hey, this is where he does most of his damage. When he lines up here, you got him. Like that's when you want him. So you can do it either way. They could decide to shadow him too. I would not be opposed to that, but sometimes that's tougher game plan wise, because then teams can figure out a way, once they know you're on them all the time, hide them, put them in the backfield, put you in compromised situation with rub routes and bunch formations and reduce splits and things like that. All right, so that's what Cowboys got to do. It is a simple game plan, but it's going to be a Herculean task for the Cowboys, worst rush defense in the league, to stop the run game and then try to have a plan to neutralize the Malik Neighbors. They do that, I think the Cowboys win. I still got the Cowboys winning. I just think if they end up losing and there is a shocking result here, I'm telling you the reasons why. I'm just giving you the reasons why. It'll be big game from Malik Neighbors, like his Odell Beckham Jr. coming out party, and it'll be Devin Singletary. We didn't know he was that elusive, and like, yeah, you did. Well, I told you he was. All right, we come back. We'll get into some Texas football conversation on the other side. We'll talk a little bit about the Texas defense. Texas ranked high in another category that I think is really cool. We'll dive into that, and also some other news, notes, and nuggets from around the college football realm in Rod's Rant. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Local and Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I wanted to give an update on this story from yesterday, the Matthew Sluka story, which took over college football for a while. And since there have been multiple updates on this story, a lot of different varying reports about what happened. Essentially, there is the UNLV side, and then there's the Matthew Sluka side. That's what it comes down to. The UNLV side is they claim their statement is that Matthew Sluka's representative made financial demands upon the university and its NIL collective in order to continue playing. UNLV Athletics pay for play. They said UNLV Athletics interpreted these demands as a violation of the NCAA's pay for play rules and as well as Nevada state law. UNLV does not engage in such activity, it says here, nor does it respond to implied threats. He said UNLV has honored all previously agreed upon scholarship offers and commitments for Matthew Sluka, and they said they're conducting their own investigation. I believe the collective, Blueprint Sports, which operates UNLV's collective, Rob Sine, the CEO of that company, said everything we do is contracted. We don't do anything verbally, and that the collective never made what at least what Matthew Sluka's people claim was $100,000 promise to pay Matthew Sluka for transferring to UNLV from Holy Cross. Now, it was also stated, at least by his representative, Matthew Sluka's representative, that it was an assistant coach that made this offer, or at least this promise, allegedly, to Matthew Sluka. But UNLV has not commented on that, and there's not been any confirmation, but they has pretty much said that he came to them to renegotiate their deal and that they fulfilled all of their commitment financially to Matthew Sluka. Matthew Sluka's people claim that, he was promised 100,000, but there is nothing contractually in writing here. And the collective says all of their NIL deals have contracts and they are in writing. And this one was not. This was just a gentleman's agreement, if you will. And so the collective is saying we never agreed to pay him $100,000. And his representative is saying, hey, there was a coach that agreed to pay us $100,000 at one point. They said all they've received is a $3,000 moving bonus, basically, a relocation bonus is all that Matthew Sluka and his representative have received. The backup quarterback, Haj Malik Williams, is said to be, already taking snaps as the number one for UNLV. So they're going to just keep it moving, running that go-go offense that Brennan Marion runs there. And they're a heavy run offense. They're probably one of the top 10 heaviest run offenses in all of college football. So all they need is a quarterback that can run. And I think the backup quarterback can run. And this young man, Matthew Sluka, was their leading rusher and their leading passer, and had led them to a 3-0 record, big upset win over Kansas, and the best start for UNLV since 1984. And right now he's in the transfer portal, and it's he said basically, or he said they said. He's saying they made promises to him, and maybe both are true. Maybe that there's some alleged assistant coach that made him a promise, but does that promise, was that backed up by the NIL collective? Did they agree to it?
Yeah.
They're saying, no, we didn't agree to anything.
Well,
and everything that we got in writing, we already fulfilled our obligation. We don't know what you talked about with this other person, but what we promised to do, we did. And like I said, if he went in to renegotiate, that's also fair. It's also fair that they said no. They decided to say, no, our backup can do just what you're doing. And, they're well within their right to do that. And he's well within his right in the free market to go in there and renegotiate if he wanted to. It didn't work. I don't know if it's going to work out for him the way that he intended. But either way, no matter what side you're on, whether you're on his side or you're on UNLV side in this thing, I think we'd all agree this is why they need more guardrails, rules and regulations. This is why you need parameters on this thing.
And it goes back to the big problem of you're not allowed to coerce someone into coming or entice someone into coming with NIL.
The inducements or whatever.
So you can't have it in writing, or else you are basically admitting to tampering in a written form. that you paid for him to leave Holy Cross to come to you and choose you over other schools. So you're not supposed to be able to do that within the NCAA rules. So anything written at that point would be a piece of evidence of violation. So that's why you can say they weren't, but that also means everything's verbal, which means a ton of these things.
Nothing is real.
Yeah, nothing is real. And then, so Sluka's agent has come out and said that they were promised it, and the collective may have never promised it, but the coaches did. And so they're holding them accountable. And then we had the other story that came out yesterday that the running back Michael Allen, he also redshirted and is leaving, but then he has said it has nothing to do with NIL. He never got $1 and he wasn't trying for it.
Playing time.
But if you looked at his carries, he had 15 game 1, 10 game 2, and 1 game 3.
So they knew.
So something was up
Something was up.
Something was up. He wasn't happy with how he was being used. So he was walking off, but he came out and said it was nothing to do with NIL.
I know, it's just like when you don't really have an entity that is going to be able to regulate the NIL market, and they don't really have that because the NCAA is powerless and they don't have any real power anymore in terms of being able to regulate this because it's a state law. State laws trump NCAA rules, as we've always said. So essentially you have this purgatory now where there's nobody to enforce these rules, and the states don't care enough to enforce the laws, and the laws have loopholes and are built in with all these gray areas anyway, so that these schools can take advantage of these loopholes. So the best way I heard it described now is that these NIL deals now, the way they're done until there's actual federal legislation that you have uniformity with all these rules, they're just drug deals. And when a drug deal goes wrong, there's nobody to complain to. Who you gonna tell the cops about your drug deal that's gone wrong? He's like, well, he promised me he's gonna give me $100,000. It's like, well, okay, all right, but it's not in writing, and that's not against the law for somebody to lie to you. It's a lie.
Yeah,
sorry, people lie.
No, and that's what the NCAA, their statement basically coming out and saying, well, we need Congress to pass jurisdiction. You're like, you want them to side with you that you can get away with your racket more. So Congress doesn't need to support you. You need to man up and either try and enforce rules and try and get either the Big Ten and the SEC to follow along, or work with them and go to the commissioners of the Big Ten and the SEC and go, what can we do to help you guys? And then we will enforce this everywhere else. Because if you guys do it, we can get everybody else on board.
Do it. Yep.
But we need you to get on board.
SEC. Yeah.
And so if you guys get on board, then we'll go to the ACC. We'll go to the Big 12. We'll get them on board. And once we have the power schools, then everything else will fall into place. But instead of doing that, they just go, until we get our way, no rules. We can't enforce anything. By the way, if you break the rules, we'll punish you. But we can't enforce it. So if they were to pay you $100,000 now, we would suspend the player and fine your school. If you pay him $100,000 now because you promised it to him before he got there, we would fine you. But we can't stop you from screwing over the kids. We can only screw over the kid more once he's been screwed over once. We're a bad organization.
Seriously. No, I agree with you. It sounds absurd. And honestly, if you're UNLV now, and I understand you want to draw a line in the sand, how much was he asking for? Just 100 G's?
Yeah.
Man, do you know how much a run to the college football playoff is worth?
It is, but and Sluka's playing well, but I get 43% completion percentage. I'm not paying him $100,000.
They're 8th heaviest run offense in the league in the country. They don't even throw the ball.
Yeah,
they don't want to throw. They run the football. They're a running offense with the goal. They have two running backs, 2 tailbacks in the backfield, run a triple option run game. So they need a third running option, a +1 run game. Yeah. So my point is, you're in Vegas, you're UNLV. I don't know how much it's worth to you. How much is all this bad press worth to you?
That's true.
How much is all the bad press worth to you? How much is it worth for you to have your best start? And my thing was that you can make up that 100,000 pretty quickly if you just win a couple of more games.
Yeah.
And now think, if you lose a game, now you're gonna be a laughing stock.
Apparently they ain't paying anybody anything, because he said he only made $3,000. The running back said he never got a dime. So apparently no one's getting paid on that team.
Yeah, if you ain't paying the quarterback, you ain't paying nobody. I mean, that's the one position you do play. So if they ain't paying quarterback, then everybody out there working for free. So that's also a bad look. Why would you want people to know that? You shouldn't want people to know that.
No,
you can string this kid along and give him another 20 G's and say, listen, Take another 20 G's, man. Okay, we'll get you the rest of it later. You couldn't do that. It seemed like he'd have been happy with another 20 G's for another 4 or 5 games, and all you needed him to do was just go another game. Because then what? No red shirt, baby. You gotta play.
Yeah.
You're a senior. You want to sit out the rest of your career? That's stupid. All you do, give him 25 G's. If you want to play this shady game, then go all the way shady.
You're
Give him
Vegas.
another 20 G's and say, hey, man, you just we'll give you the rest later on. And then once he plays an extra game, go, sorry, man, you know, your red shirt's already, you know, you already exhausted that. Can't help you out.
Yeah. And
they don't even know how to be shady the right way. Like, that's stupid shady. Come on.
No, it's silly. I did also laugh at the amount of people that I saw that were like, the game is ruined. I'm like, when's the last time you watched a UNLV game?
Yeah.
When's the last time?
I haven't.
I get it. And I get that it sucks that this is a part of the discourse now. And I get that it sucks that the transfer portal is what it is. There needs to be guardrails. But to pretend like the UNLV quarterback leaving is the end of college football is a bit dramatic.
No, I agree. It's not dramatic. But
because these other schools, I guarantee this has happened at other schools a lot. And it always gets taken care of because they have the amount of money that they promised at the beck and call.
Oh, there have been multiple Texas players that have went in to renegotiate. Yeah. Y'all don't like it, but they have.
Yeah.
And they've got their money.
Yeah. Or at least
it ain't really worth
to
it. Or they've transferred. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it's been, but it's you know. So I think for it depends on how important the player is. But at quarterback, come on, man. Remember Malik Murphy after the spring game? Everybody was like, Malik Murphy, that spring game. Oh, man, it was a great spring game. Now he's being recruited nationally. Teams want him to transfer. And then he stayed another year. And it was like, oh, yeah, because it was understood. He got his bag.
Yeah.
It was like, nah, we'll give you. He's a backup. He was the backup. And they're like, nah, we'll give you a bag.
We got you.
Quarterback's important. This is the guy that's our starting quarterback. You don't want to pay him. You don't pay anybody.
Arch said he's not taking money until he starts.
But then you're gonna be paying a lot of back pay. That's gonna be a lot of
there's gonna be some back pay.
You're gonna be a back pay. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into who said that on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday. That's when Patrick comes up with a creative new theme, and today it's all about running. And in order, we're doing that basically for Cowboys fans. We know tonight they'll be focused on the running game and the rush defense for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's why running is the theme for New Theme Thursday. All the songs reference running in some way, form, or fashion. We appreciate Patrick coming up with that. Also, we appreciate Patrick coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day. That's posted already at the Horn ATX on X. It's a simple question also related to that game tonight for the Cowboys. How many yards will the Giants rush for against the Cowboys? And right now, 49% of you who actually took the survey there and voted in the poll believe it'll be between 100 and 150 yards that the Giants will rush for. If that's the case, I think the Cowboys still win, but it could get real interesting if the Cowboys can't stop the run against the Giants. All right, let's get to who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify or recall who said that.
Nick, as a captain now, what's your mindset as far as putting this behind you? What do you guys have to do? What does the leadership have to do on this team right now?
I think we have to feel the loss for sure. We can't just move on and act like it's fine. You feel the loss and you just start stacking week by week. We're not making excuses for any loss, but yeah, we're in a hole now, so we got to dig it out.
Ooh, that's Nick Bosa. He sounds sad too. I mean, he sounds a little depressed after that loss to the Rams. Yeah, I mean, they were in control of that game. They had a disastrous last 7-8 minutes of that game, and they imploded in every phase of the game. It was one of the worst meltdown collapses in Shano's tenure there with the 49ers. It was really bad.
No, you don't want to have you when you're looking at your season and what games might be difficult, you didn't have Vikings and Rams circled in that one right off the bat.
Yeah. That's true. Good point. Yeah, especially with a backup Sam Darnold and in the injury.
You were like, Sam was here
Rams
last
squad.
year. He couldn't get on the field.
True that. Ooh, that had to hurt. I would say Shano was complimentary. Remember, he said that Sam Darnold has starting caliber stuff, and nobody believed him.
He did.
Yeah, he definitely looks like well, it wasn't supposed to be against you, though, Shano. All right. Thank you for everything you do, as Patrick. We appreciate it. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Until next time, hook 'em and peace.